cross country. The purest sporting contest. No gimmicks, no equipment, no roads, no assistance. Just you against the terrain, plus whatever nature brings. The World Athletics Cross Country Championships always attract a roll call of the very best there's ever been. There's no other distances here, no medal for 3,000 or 5 or 10. Just one chance, dominated by a select few. Ethiopia and Kenya have won every women's team medal since '95, and only once in 40 years has the men's team medal gone to anyone else. But they've never done it here. And now home to the first World Athletics Series event on the island continent in 25 years. More than 60 nations, more than 550 competitors, the cream of Australian running facing the best from across the globe. Can anyone topple the dominance of the African nations at a festival of sport with a distinctly Aussie flavour? The 44th World Athletics Cross Country Championships, Bathurst, February 18, 2020.
It's good to go one up from last year. Last year I got second here, so yeah, I'm happy I came away with the win. It gives you, points for the 5,000, lets you run at the Oceanas, I think, so yeah, it's quite important for the World Champs and Com Games.
Definitely a special moment for me, coming off injury and just jumping into opens this year. It's good to start off strong and it's a good base for me to work up this from.
I'm pretty happy with that with the season. I think that's my best ever. So to have that under load is pretty exciting. My goal as an athlete is always to win. I'm not here to get fourth. I'm not here to get third. Like, my goal is to win. Is it realistic to win this year? I think so.
Good confidence booster to get the win against those girls. They're also talented and everyone's in really good shape at the moment.
World Athletics Cross Country Championships, Bathurst 23. We are on the course here. This is Mount Panorama. We've got the runners out there. It's an amazing 2-kilometre loop that we've prepared here in Bathurst, 2.5 hours west of Sydney, and we're looking forward to welcoming the world on February 18, 2023. The first time Australia's ever hosted the World Athletics Cross Country Championships. It'll be the 44th edition of this event and only the second time ever on the Southern Hemisphere. There'll also be a full range of mass participation races, so athletes will be able to experience the course the day before. There'll be fun runs, kids events, masters events. People of all ages and abilities will be able to experience this course like these athletes have been able to do today.
We have different aspects at different stages. We've got 11% grade. We've also got a mud section to mirror what happened at the last World Cross Country. It's an uphill start, 250 metres. Then we hook across towards Conrod Strait, and then we go down into the Billabong section, which is very technical. Then we have a big climb coming up, basically back up to the highest point of the course. Then from there we go down into the Vineyard section, which again is another uphill section. Then we cross back down to Mountain Straight, where we have a downhill stretch where the athletes will probably be going upwards of 2 minutes 30 per K, and then we hook back towards the finish line, and then they go out to do a multiple lap.
It felt like it was constant discomfort. If it's not the uphills, it's the mud pits and just your feet sinking into the ground. But it was fun being out there with everyone and just kind of fighting to get the race done. Definitely what cross country is all about. It's always fun to challenge yourself. As you leave Sydney and you start driving through the mountains, it's just seeing how beautiful the country is. That'll be great.
Bathurst today because it's local. So we're just down the road in Orange, so it was lovely to come to an event nearby and test out the course, which I'm a big fan of. So we will definitely be here. There's no way we're missing it. You know, such a major event. I'm so excited. Like, what a special thing to have so close to home.
Oh, it's tough, but you know what they say, you always remember the tough courses, you never remember the easy ones. I'm looking forward to just see everyone from across the world run. I think it's going to be a really, really good event. It'll be interesting to see who takes it out and what tactics are involved. And yeah, super keen to see it.
Well, a very good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 2023 New South Wales 5,000 metre Championships live from Sydney Olympic Park Athletic Centre. I'm Matt Whitbread for NSW, and I'm joined as always by James Constantine. Welcome, Jimmy.
G'day, Matt. Some good racing so far. We're up to the men's E-race here, just over halfway through, I think, or just coming up to halfway now, I think. So 6.5 laps for these gents. We've had, I think, one or two of our grade races thus far and a couple of really good community races. So a good start here to this year's 5K program.
Absolutely. So we'll just have a look through this start list for the men's E-race, which we're just running a little bit behind the scheduled timetable for those playing along at home, about 20 minutes or so, I think.
Yeah,
Jimmy.
about that.
So the start list for this men's E-race is as follows in hip number order: Alex Dent for Run Crew, Bryn Darby for Sutherland, Noah Lackey for Woodstock, James Brewer for Kembla, Masto Mori for Sydney Athletics Academy, Austin Villad-Cocker for Hills District, Jasper Scamps-Margot for Delta inside his teammate Joe Park, then a Run Crew pair of Hamish Duggan and Rory Campbell, another Delta athlete in Tom Holland inside of Sutherland's Jairus Brealey, Rajitha De Silva goes for West in hip number 13, Cameron Dodds for Bankstown inside the great Paul Arthur for Gosford, former Sea to Surf winner, Stefan Tornier of Newcastle Flyers, Samuel Waring of the Hills District, Jacob Pearson for St George, Harrison Baxter for Nowra, Artem Pilpachuk for unattached NSW athlete, Sam Strutt for Run Crew. Good to see Sammy's name on the start list again. Dan Shoughton for Nepean, Jared Reardon for Run Crew, Kai Hornshaw for Hills District, and Chris Quick rounds out a full field of 25 for Gosford. Great to see so many on the start line, Jimmy.
Yeah, a couple of big races of 25 for the men's E and men's F, which just finished about 15 minutes ago. So there's a nice pack out in front, just being led here by Tom Holland of the Delta Rain Project. Then young hip number 19, Harrison Baxter there of Nowra, and one of the Hills athletes just behind as well. That could well be Kai Hornshaw, I think. So that's a little breakaway pack of three there. Then you got the Newcastle Flyers athlete just in between that lead pack, and well, it's kind of a chase pack, but they're actually sort of breaking up a little bit there. You can see a couple of pairs now breaking up. Paul Arthur there for Gosford, right in amongst the contenders at the moment, but it's the Delta Rain Project, Tom Holland, and Delta actually have a lot of athletes in those community races, plenty of their male and female athletes getting amongst it in some of the high quality community races. So good representation there from the pink and blue out of North Sydney.
You can see this field starting to spread out now. Cameron Dodds there on screen in the yellow of Bankstown. And behind him is Sam Strutt from Run Crew wearing the white cap. And Kai Hornshaw in there behind him, along with Chris Quick from Gosford. And just having a little bit of a look down the back straight there. Rory Campbell there for Run Crew as well. Plenty of these athletes though going very strongly for a men's D race now, through a mile to run now for this lead pack.
It looks like just going wide there. I think I got that wrong, but it was Austin Villad-Cocker, I think it is, just making that move. Hip number 6. No, I got that wrong again, my apologies. Samuel Waring I had 3 to choose from. I got the 2 wrong first up. Samuel Waring, that is. He takes the lead of this men's e-race, and now he's followed by Harrison Baxter of Nowra. Tom Holland just fading slightly to 3rd. He'll want to keep in touch with these two. They're a lot of the early leading, as the boys have 1,400 metres to go. And Stefan Tournier of Newcastle Flyers is looking pretty comfortable there in 4th. So, and Tournier actually, as I mentioned, his name is just passing the shoulder of Holland and moving his way up into 3rd. And just coming into picture now is Gerard Reardon of Run Crew. So he's actually made a lot of ground, Gerard, in this lap, and he's going to attack onto the back of Tom Holland. So a lead pack of 5 now, with Waring a couple of strides in front of Baxter. 3 laps to go, 12:38 on the clock. It's going to be interesting to see if Waring decides to stretch this one out. Still plenty of time left in this race. And start to make these boys work really hard. It's very warm out there as well at the moment, Matt. Temperatures getting into the mid-30s earlier today, so really, really tough, particularly for the community races, which were first up. And yeah, it's still 31 degrees at the moment, so it has to be said, probably the warmest conditions we've seen all summer, certainly for our New South Wales distance races.
Yeah, and the other thing, it's still 45% humidity as well, so not sure what that puts there it is, feels like 32, so it's still very warm out there. And remember, 3/4 of the track, or probably at least 2/3 of the track now, is still in the sunlight. As you can see on screen, they're just coming into the shade now, so it's really just the front straight that is covered in shade. The A races, fortunately, will be just after sunset, which is due at about 10 to 8. It's still almost an hour and 40 away, so it's still going to be very warm for these athletes, and even once we get to the main event, so I expect it'll still be quite warm. Good to see the crowd getting out on the track.
Yeah, really good. The distance championships, of course, only lanes 1 and 2 used, so a lot of the crowd getting out, and those who have already raced in the lower graded races and the community races, supporting their teammates after their race, which is great to see. So check back in. This is 650 metres to go now, and that's Gerard Reardon. So he now takes the lead, just goes past Waring's shoulder of Hills District, and he's run a very smart race. The Run Crew athlete has come through the field throughout the race and looking fantastic with 600 to go. Waring's still right there, and the Newcastle Flyers athlete Stefan Tournier is tacked right onto the heels of Waring. Then there's a bit of a gap back to Harrison Baxter now of Nowra, the junior, and Tom Holland is just a few strides back as well, 5th at the moment for Delta Rain Project, as we see a lot of the mid-pack. There's Paul Arthur battling along for Gosford All-Stars, having another good run. Joe Park there of Delta Rain Project. Masato Mori, good Sydney Athletics Academy, a couple of the older juniors taking on the 5K. Cameron Dodds there at Bankstown going through. Alex Dent, Run Crew, 600 metres, but that's the bell lap, so they took it about 15-12, and now Tourney has actually gone to the front, so it's the Newcastle athlete who's looking to try and take out this E-race. Gerard Reardon and Samuel Waring, they are the top 3 in a good race with 280 to go. Reardon's probably run the pick of the races, and he makes another move. The Run Crew athlete in the black strip goes back past Tournier's shoulder. And how much energy has Waring got? He did a lot of the leading early on. Can he mount a challenge here for Hills District? 200 metres to go. A little tap of the watch there from the Run Crew athlete. And Tournier goes back past the shoulder. So the Newcastle athlete now definitely starting to go for home, and does open up a bit of a gap and is looking the goods here. 120 to go. Reardon just striking a little bit to stay with this hot pace. Waring is trying to go around his shoulder for second, but Stephen Tournier of Newcastle Flyers kicked at the 200 metre mark, and he is going to kick away with the win. Very good time despite the conditions here. 16:21. Stefan Tournier will take it out in front of Gerard Reardon of Run Crew for second, and Samuel Waring, a great run there to round out the top 3. Harrison Baxter goes sub 16:30. A fantastic run there for the Nowra junior. He'll finish in 4th, and Tom Holland is going to be just inside 16:40 for the Delta Rain project to round out the top 5 fast finishing Austin Vidal-Cocker of Hills Districts under 16:50, and we'll see how many we can get on the sub 17. Good run by Noah Lackey there of Woodstock Runners, and Paul Arthur 16:57. Another awesome run there by the Gosford All Stars athlete, with a bunch of athletes just outside 17 minutes coming through now.
Pretty top level running to be ticking over only through 17 minutes now in an E-race. It shows the depth. Unfortunately, only a couple of races in the women's tonight, so not as big a fields there as we might see at something like the 3K championships, although of course bigger fields in the 5. But some good depth. And just looking ahead a little bit, Jimmy, back to the A races tonight. Good to see some big names on the start list, particularly the women's. I noticed that Holly Campbell's due to go around tonight as what will be her final hit out before pulling on her maiden Australian crop top next week.
Yeah, great to see Holly. I must say I was a little bit shocked to see her on the start list, but great to see her having that last hit out a week before her Open World Championship debut, and she has been in fine form. Coming, was it third? I think fifth. I think she came in the World Cross Country Trials. Yeah, so top 5 in Australia of the World Cross Trials. Won the New South Wales 3,000 metre championships. That really kicked off her season so far. That was back in November, and she's just been humming along, it has to be said, over the last couple of months, and a well-deserved Australian singlet. It's going to be great to see Hull go around. And then looking to the men's race, Matt, so good to see Tom DeCanto back after a pretty long stint out. Had an unfortunate foot injury early on last year. It took a while to get over that, but he came out and ran the Sun Run last weekend, the DY to Manly 10K, very hilly 10K, almost broke Benny St. Lawrence's record from a couple of years back. He's in very good form, and really looking forward to him versus Ben St. Lawrence, both of Run Crew, of course, and plenty of fantastic athletes littered all throughout the start list. Luke Hintz has been going very well in the Milers series for Kembla joggers. Matt Cox, the stalwart from Run Crew. Then there's a couple of really exciting juniors, Hamish Hart, Randwick Botany, great to see him back. Connor Whiteley has been in superb form over the 1500 for Sydney Uni. Aaron Spiceberg Parker has had a really good season thus far as well. So plenty of contenders there for the medals or the podium overall. Should be some really good championship racing, and that's going to be kicking off at 8:12. We're due for the women's race, and just after 8:30 for the men's race.
So let's have a look at the timetable while these guys are sorting themselves out. That's the timetable there for this evening. As we mentioned, we're running a little bit behind schedule, so bear with us. But that will be our timetable for those playing along at home. Championship races due to get underway at 8:12 and 8:32, and a couple of feature races interposed in the program as well, Jimmy.
Yeah, the 400s and the 800s, we've built this in over the last couple of seasons into the New South Wales 5K champs, and the 800s in particular, because there's not much of a crossover between the 2 lap and the 12.5 lap runners, have produced some really, really good fields in the past. And look at the B races earlier on as part of the All-Comers program today. I was looking at a lot of athletes who missed out on that A race and thinking, geez, the A race fields must be pretty good. These guys and girls are in the B. So really looking forward to some of those support races as part of the 5K program.
They'll be keen to be back on the main track here at SOPAC as well, probably for the first time since Christmas, I'd say.
Yeah, I think the Trelaw final in late December was the last meet we had here, as we're off with the men's E-race. Men's D-race. Big field of 24. Might run through the field now. Targ Nolan of Run Crew in 1. Jake Evans of Randwick Botany in 2. Scott Godfrey of Mingara in 3. Jordan Anderson of Sutherland in 4. Billy Zavansanos of Randwick Botany in 5. Then the Singapore athlete, Shohib Marakan in 6. Great to see some international flavour here. Martin Smelly of TRT Running in 7. Joel Zirub of Run Crew in 8. Michael Whiting of Distance Culture Club, might be one of the Queensland clubs, in 9. Sean Kelleher of Newcastle Runners in 10. Cole McIntosh of Woolgoolga in 11. Anthony Ritchie of Delta Rain Project in 12. Jed Marr of the Delta Rain Project in 13. James Mason New South Wales athlete in 14, Greg Frost of Kembla Joggers in 15, Mitch Ryan of Kembla Joggers in 16, Alessio Parisi of Trinity in 17, Keegan Ross of Sydney Striders in 18, Timothy Broxer of Delta Running Project in 19, Andy Cross of Sutherland Districts in 20, Chris Gatt of Delta Running Project in 21, Idris Burkhardt, Cherrybrook in 22, Charles Jansen van Rensburg of Kembla Joggers in 23, and Adam Schaefer of Sydney University in 24.
So another big field in the men's in particular, 24 in this one. And having a look up the front of the field, it's Billy Zavastanos of Ramwick, who's prominent early.
Idris Burkhardt, I think, of Cherrybrook, just on his heels. And the Ngara athlete, Scott Godfrey, is our leading pack of 3 through the 600 metre mark in 150. Andy Cross of Sutherland leads that big chase pack at the moment, very early stages in this 5K. Idris Burkhardt, a junior athlete, that's really come along, and Cherrybrook doesn't produce too many, or 5K runners at least.
Better known, probably caps out about the half mile, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, you've got the Opens led by Matt Joyce, of course, and a lot of fantastic sprinters and jumpers. Obviously Macquarie and Andrews in the sprint hurdles as well. But it's great to see Burkhardt stepping up to the 5K and really leading that distance aspect of the Cherrybrook Senior Athletics Club. A very strong club and performed quite well in the Inns Club season pre-Christmas. So good to see him going around, looking really comfortable at the moment. Zavin Sarnos setting the pace early, and it's a pretty honest one. They're going to be under sub-16 pace as they come through the K mark. Just a little bit of a move on the outside there from the Trinity athlete. That's Alessio Parisi. Just shifting in behind Andy Cross as gents come up to the 1K mark and they go through just under 3:07. So we're about 15:40 pace at the moment, 15:35 pace, give or take.
Certainly very good running for a D race, and it just goes to show you the depth. Great to see some of the some non-traditional clubs, which are typically strongest in the distance running discipline. Plenty of Delta athletes out there, run crew, but also plenty of squads represented in the traditional clubs as well, up coaching and up and running in Ramwick, who of course leading the way here. Plenty of Sutherland athletes as well there, and the youngsters from Trinity. Plenty of club representation next week as well in the mass participation aspects of the World Cross Country Championships. Entry's still open for that if you're watching at home and haven't got your entry in yet. There's something for everyone over the course of the weekend. Whether you're a school kid, Masters athlete, you can't enter the World Masters Championships anymore, they're closed, but you can enter any of the fun runs over the course of the weekend. So coming down here, Jimmy, that's about a 75, something like that. So holding the tempo relatively well.
Yeah, still well under that 16-minute mark at the moment, about 15:40 pace. Zavin Sarnos leading the gents around.
You can hear Bruni over the PA system, and he's right. There is a bit of a pack now forming behind this leading group of 3, led by Zavastanos. And you can still see there, nice shot up the back straight, showing the pack's still relatively well together, so well seeded this race.
It does happen when you've got plenty of depth. As we just see Mitch Ryan and Chris Gatt, a couple of really good contributors to their clubs. Mitch Ryan of the Wollongong Track Club, who have done some really good stuff down south, running some great events in conjunction with Kembla Joggers. A lovely relationship between traditional and non-traditional down there in the Wollongong region. Great to see Mitch out here for another event.
I think Hamish Longworth's going around in the A race later tonight, part of that group.
Luke Hintz as well, I think. So yeah, they're he's doing some good stuff down there in Wollongong, and it's no surprise at all. There's such a great culture down there. Of course, the integral energy park in Dapto, the cross country course, one of the best in the country, and they are very, very proud to have a very high maintenance of that course, and it's a wonderful course. We really look forward to getting there for the short course cross country championships. I'm pretty sure I'm back there this year, which is great. After they copped a lot of rain over the last couple of years with La Nina, and rendered it almost impossible to run a full series on. So hopefully some dry weather this winter, we can get back to the Kembla Joggers Clubhouse for another great edition of the short course championships.
Yeah, they've done a great job to get that course back up and running, because they did absolutely get hammered by the weather. But Wollongong Track Club, a great example of what we were talking about earlier. Hamish Longworth will run for Bankstown later tonight, and Luke Hinz will run for Kembla Joggers, despite being both part of that more informal squad. And so 7 laps to go here on the boards, and Zavastanos has just opened the gap out a little bit there on Burkhardt. And just see there's still, they got a bit of respite with some cloud cover coming over, but the sun beating down the back again now. It's hot out there. It's really hot. And 5K is not 1500 or 800. It's plenty long enough to struggle with the heat. Water available to the athletes, but serious athletes won't be taking those halfway through a race.
Yeah, I saw some pretty red faces after the community runs. Just grabbing a few of the timing chips. We were testing out some new timing equipment with a couple of mats down there, and just collecting the timing chips. I saw some pretty red faces, peering up at me. Where's my cup of water? I'm helping you. You help me now. So it's warm out there. Kudos to everyone running. To be honest, like even if you're finishing this, regardless of whether you're 10 seconds or a couple of minutes outside your PB, just to get to the finish in these conditions is worth kudos.
Absolutely. We should have a talk about some of the fields for next week as well. The final entries released overnight from World Athletics for the World Cross Country Championships, and it must be said, Jimmy, going through that in a bit of detail, and won't shock you to learn I've been paying a bit of attention to it, the fields for the 4x2 kilometre mixed relay look relatively promising for the Australian side. There's certainly plenty of competition coming. I think there's 16 countries represented in the relay, but it's, make no mistake, the Australian quartet of Stewie McSwain, Jess Hull, Ollie Hoare and Abby Caldwell are a live gold medal chance at a home world championship. So if you haven't made the decision yet to come up to Bathurst, look up some accommodation options. There are still some rooms available, also camping on the mountain, but do not miss the opportunity to see an Australian team run as a genuine shot for a world championship on home soil. The way the schedule works, it's the first race of the day, so the very first ever senior world championship medal in Australia may well be going to the home nation in a team with two of New South Wales' biggest stars in it, in Ollie and Jess.
Yeah, there was actually a really good Instagram post put out by a relatively new Instagram page. I don't actually know who the admin is, but it's called AthStats, if anyone wants to look up that. They put out a fantastic grid, which was a cumulative time of the 4 athletes' 1500 metre PBs, and Australia was about 30 seconds ahead of the African countries, Kenya and Ethiopia, which got me excited.
Yeah, we've had an eye on that page. So I can tell you, having looked at that again overnight, I believe we are still the top seed on that metric.
That's right.
The Ethiopians have decided to send a relatively junior team, so that their seniors will be focusing on the Open Championship races, and probably fair to say that they're targeting a bit more as a developmental championship for their up-and-comers, but it looked quite good. when we were going through that list. But back to this race, mile to go, 10:53 on the board, and they went through 3K in 9:33, so they've slowed down to 80s, which, given the conditions, seems fair enough. And poor old Billy Zavastanos has effectively done all of the work all by himself out in the sun. I don't think anyone else has taken so much as a half a lap off him. And he's now doing it all by himself out the front.
It's a good run by Andy Cross in second for Sutherland. He's moved through the field nicely. The champion Masters athlete picked up a lot of gold at the New South Wales Masters Championships last weekend out at Campbelltown, and back up for the 5K here this weekend. Probably see him in the World Masters race as well. Matt, we've got some of our top Masters athletes and the men and women going around. So Andy will be
Ross Desai-Chin
in the 40s.
Day,
Yeah,
Russie.
He'll be a big chance of a World Masters gold there. So great to see Russ out.
About 250 athletes entered in the first ever World Masters short course cross country championship, which was great to see. It's part of a commitment of World Athletics to incorporate as many mass participation events as possible, but also work with World Masters Athletics to incorporate Masters events into the Open World Championships. Happened at the race walking, I think, first, and cross country's second cab off the rank. Expect to see it at the World Road Running at some stage as well. But a great international example of how the sport should all be working together as one.
Yeah, Billy Zavastanos actually a very good triathlete as well. So yet another one of our multi-discipline athletes as coming up to a K to go there. So it was 12:53 through the 4K.
3:20 for that K.
Which is about those 80-second laps you mentioned last lap, Matt. So just operating around that 16:40 pace, but he's just got, well, a healthy lead. As there's Idris Burkhardt, he's just struggled the last K, the Cherrybrook athlete, but hanging tough in there, just with one of the chase packs. There's Charles Jansen Ben Rensburg coming up to the 4K mark for Kembla joggers. As we go back to the lead, and it's a lead of about 35, maybe 40 metres back to Andy Cross. Zavastanos has 2 laps to go. This has been a good performance by Andy Cross. Don't know if he's broken 16 minutes before, so very good running. And Jordan Ensign is leading a Sutherland 2-3 at the moment. He's made his way to the front of the first of our chase packs with, I think that might be, Delta Running Project, and one of the Kembla joggers athletes will pick them up shortly. But Zavastanos, this has been a gutsy run, but he's doing it brilliantly. Still looking really good down that back straight. This is now 600 metres to go, 14:13, so big chance here of going under the 16 minute mark, and Andy Cross 14:19 there.
Yeah, he's holding the pace well, 79 for that lap from 4 to 4,400, and it's holding him in good stead to be maintaining the pace with conditions that hot, particularly up the back straight. So he's going to see a welcome sign of 1 on the boards now, and you'll hear the bell in a second. See what he's able to close in.
67 to close in sub-16. That's a tough
big ask, isn't it?
15 flat there for Andy Cross as he takes the bell. And this is Greg Frost, who's made his way into 3rd with the Delta Running Project athlete. I think that's Tim Broxo in 4th. So some big moves down in the field, but staying with Billy Zavastanos, he's going to be just outside the 16
Doesn't look like, he's got the turn of foot, and you couldn't blame him. Still 32 degrees out there, and the sun being where it is, they're still in the sun for about 3/4 of the lap, certainly 2/3, and at 45% humidity, it's pretty warm. But he's done enough, Zavastanos, and to his credit, got absolutely no help whatsoever along the journey.
Well, I think he's just too good. I mean, he made it his own race pretty early on, and he's just blown the field apart. There's a good race here for second just behind him. Greg Frost has actually just moved into second past the shoulder of Andy Cross there. So Savin Science will take the line 16:08.42 unofficially. He takes the men's D race. Then it is Greg Frost second and Andy Cross Valiant in third. That's a great run there by the Summerland Masters athlete. Tim Broxer of Delta Rain Project finishes in 16:21. And the Mingara athlete Scott Godfrey, who featured pretty early on, finishing in top 5. And how many of those gents just finished in 16:30?
I was just going to say that the handicapper got the field right, because 90% of the field was within about 100 metres of each other.
So plenty of 16:28s, 16:29s there. Good running by all those gents. That is 3:22 pace. Very, very quick there for 5K, and really good depth. Big sub-17 attempt here. Oh, I might just sneak under. That was Shohib American, our Singapore athlete. So well done there to Shohib, and maybe a few international viewers. Anyone following along?
I saw a couple of Singaporean names on the start list actually. I think there's one in the next race as well, I think. We'll have a look at that start list in a minute, but rounding out the field here, I think that's Vitrine in about 17:26. I think still one coming into the straight now actually.
Might be Jake Evans here.
Ramwick?
Ramwick Botany,
Yep.
yeah, hip number 2, I think.
Looks like he's had a tough day in the heat. Can't blame him.
No.
I was getting hot enough sitting at home watching the cricket, so...
Well, he's still going to go sub-18, which is essentially 3:35 pace, so he's making 3:35 pace look pretty easy.
It's just one of those really depressing results, isn't it? So let's keep having a quick look at the start lists here, because they are rolling through them. This is the field for the men's C race now.
So we're about 20 minutes behind schedule still, aren't we? 6:15, this was due to go off in.
So they'll be looking to move them along, you'd expect, but there's a start list on screen for those playing along at home. On the start, but Matt North, Luke Smith, Maximus Booth Martinez. Who have we got there? Brendan Felice, Ryan Samerson. Give me a yell when I'm about to start, Jimmy, so we'll just get this clock going. Melvin Wong, Luke Jeffries, Ryan Freichberg, Harrison Phillips, Dave Baker, Ben Hasler, Stefan Dean Smith, Aaron Houston, Joseph Leithland, Caleb Radishiaka for Newcastle Flyers, Sebastian Havens of Ramwick, Sean Gow of Singapore, Matt Taylor of Run Crew, Ren Sean Balnave of Ramwick, Matt Dawson and Dominic Bullock, both of Delta, Miller Ribbett of Bathurst, and Lockie Oakes rounds out a 23 athlete field for the men's C race in another big field. This is the last race of the 5Ks before we get into our feature 400 and 800 metre events. And then we'll be into the B races and the championships.
Yeah, good field here. A lot of these guys well under the 16-minute mark in terms of their personal bests. Just having a look at some of the athletes. We've got Miller Ribbett, who is going to be featuring in the golden ticket race, Matt. Try and go for one of those under 20 spots. Plenty of spots in line.
Yeah, 7 of them up for grabs. If you're an elite or a sub-elite Aussie athlete in the under 20s or the Opens, get yourself up to Bathurst. Once in a lifetime opportunity to earn yourself a start in the World Championship event the next day.
Pretty amazing. I was just looking through the start list. I've done a sneaky article for AA at some point, which should come out on Monday. But just looking at some of the names, you've got Liam Adams, Ed Goddard, Tom DeCanto, I think is listed.
That's going to be a hot race.
Benny Saint, I think, is playing up. It's fantastic. Liam Adams, I didn't realise he's been to 8 World Cross Country Championships. So even though he won't be representing Australia, trying to get on the start line of his 9th World Cross race is quite extraordinary. And then in the ladies, Sarah Klein, who of course came 14th at the World Championship Marathon for Australia, the Victorian-based athlete. Lexi Gilmore, 2017 World Cross representative, also runs Run Crew. Paige Campbell's
NSW board member.
NSW board member, yes. Paige Campbell is entered, going to try and join her sister, which would be surely some sort of history made there.
Some sort of pacing job in the World Champs.
That would be an awesome start line footage of both of them on there. Of course, they're not going to be representing Australia if they make the start line. It'll be independent athletes.
Small logistics. They'll get some plain black ASICS kit to run in, and they'll have some special bibs. But they will be lining up on the start line with athletes from 48 odd countries.
And there's going to be some bragging rights on the line as well, right? Like if they scalp a couple of the people who have gone to the trials.
I think, to be fair, I suspect that probably won't be the case in the Opens, but a massive opportunity, I think, if you're in the under-20s, which are a bit more volatile, that if you've just missed a start at the trials in Stromlo and you want to point out that you deserve to be there, well, here's an opportunity. Go knock off one of the athletes who've been selected.
It's really interesting.
It's going to be tough. I mean, let's be clear. They've got to run, I think, 4 or 6K, depending on the age group, on the Friday afternoon and then back up.
Yeah, I think that's a good point for the
36 hours later. So
even if you have come 7th or 8th in the trials, you're going to have 6K in your legs before you get to the start line. So.
And I've barred myself from looking at weather forecasts for the next couple of days because they change too often and they scare me too much. But at the moment, it looks like it's still going to be fairly warm, as you would expect for Bathurst in February. Pleasingly, no rain, it looks like, at the moment. But if you're coming, I'd bring a hat.
And just going through that Billabong for the test event, that I think we had some pretty dry weather leading up to that, and that was muddy. So if there is a bit of rain around,
well, I can confirm it'll be muddy regardless of whether we get the rain or not. We're seeing to that, but it's a really spectacular course up at Mount Panorama, and it's such a unique opportunity to be able to run on the World Championship course, regardless of how good a runner or a jogger you are. Everyone who comes up there will have the opportunity to compete on the very same World Championship course that the superstars of our sport will run on the Saturday afternoon. It's a unique opportunity. You know, they don't let you go out and kick a footy around after the AFL Grand Final and the MCG, but you will get to run the very same course as the World Championship athletes go around on Saturday afternoon. Let's have a look at the men's C race here, going through 600 and about 153. Start to get some splits for you.
Brendan Felice leading proceedings there for Ilon Reevesby. A couple of the other athletes up there early on. Ryan Frickberg of Sydney Athletics Academy, he does sit second in that lime green top. Caleb Runkuchea of Newcastle Flyers was up there very early as well. He might just be sitting 5th at the moment in the field, but you can see them beautifully strung out there coming up to the 800.
Great shot, isn't it? Yeah.
So 73 I got them through in the first lap. A little bit slower here, that's 73 now. So about a 76 or so there for the second lap.
On the outside, Joseph Leithland of Gold Coast just wanting to move proceedings on a little bit.
Is that the Gold Coast Gold Coast Run Co athlete, I think. Taller figure there on the outside. Yes, it is. So great to see the Queenslanders coming down and supporting the event. We've had quite a few Queenslanders in the past in the A race. Kieran Perkins coming to mind. Also took out the Sydney 10. So certainly no stranger to a Queenslander coming down and stealing a race or two, whether it be a championship or a grade race in the distance events.
I think Leithland's put himself up into the lead now, and David Baker of Camden, the 22-year-old who's just 23, only got the years here, has put himself up into second position. So these boys just starting to tick along a little bit as they come up to 1,200 metres. I missed the 1K split, apologies. But you can see there's still not big pace here, right? There's plenty of these athletes happy to go wide and try to put themselves up. That was a Harrison Phillips of Run Crew and Ryland Semenis, who I think is wearing one of those ACT singlets actually, down as an unattached athlete here, but looks like one of the Canberra clubs. But Leithland at the front of the field for the Gold Coast. I think I said Gosford earlier, apologies. And just on the front of the Camden athlete, David Baker, as they run through 1400 metres.
And then Harrison Phillips of Run Crew in the black strip there, can't miss that one. He's sitting in third with Ryland Semenis. I think you said, was that the Canberra singlet you're referring to?
I think so, yeah.
So, a couple of interstays in the top four at the moment.
There's a great shot of it on screen there. The field is just split into two, and I think it's poor old Aaron Houston, the T20 athlete, who's just found himself in kind of no man's land in the middle, though. He's just starting to get swallowed back into that second pack. You can see him on screen there, Houston with the sunglasses. And a shot on screen there of that second pack in this race running together, and you can see some of these athletes just starting to fall off the back a little bit. That's Miller Rivet of Bathurst just falling off the back of one of the Delta athletes there. Through 1800 now. So get the second K split when they get around to the back next time around. And as you can see over the PA, potentially about 15-20 pace, as Brandy points out. Which actually you'd expect that to be a little bit quicker maybe based on the results of that last D race. But this will be the 2,000 metre split as they head up the back, and about 6:10 or thereabouts through, so more like 15:25 than 15:15. Just slowing up a bit, and again that shade is creeping over. You've got about half the track now in the sun. But this front pack of three happy to run together.
Yeah, so Joseph Leithland actually came fourth in the national under 16 3K at last year's national. So one of the top under 16 athletes going around, stepping up to the 5K here, possibly one of his first races over this distance. Turning 16 this year, actually born 2007, so he may well be 15 years old. So a really good performance by a youngster here, and just now letting Harrison Phillips of Run Crew just do a little bit of the work. So good to see some teamwork starting to happen now, Matt, in the C race. Probably not as much in the lower grade races, but you know these boys certainly know how to race. The tactics are out and play in that lead pack.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if it is tactics or it's a move, because no indication that these athletes are teammates, and you wouldn't expect it given Leithland's from the Gold Coast and Baker's from Camden, both of which are a long way from Centennial Park where Run Crew train, Harrison Phillips. So let's see if they're going to just be competitors sharing the load here. They're certainly not squad mates.
Baker's probably working the hardest, isn't he?
Yeah, he looks laboured there, doesn't he? Interesting style there from Phillips, like really cross body with the arms. So through in about 8:02, that was that about a 75 that?
Don Bullock just leading that chase pack. That's 4th through 7th at the moment. The Sydney Athletes Academy athlete there, Ryan Frickberg, I'm pretty sure, just sitting behind Bullock. Then comes the Old Zabrin singlet, I think the Victorian club, Ben Hasler, sitting in amongst them. And just another athlete, I think it's another Green Rick Botany athletes too far away, make a call on that hip number. You can see that chase back forward just our screen now as we zoom back onto Leafland.
Yeah, so changing the lead there up the back again, and so we've answered our question from a lap ago. It looks like they are happy to share a bit of the work here. Leafland taking it up again, and just as I say that, Phillips looking to get up on his shoulder. Doesn't want to surge past him yet, but Baker, he does look laboured, doesn't he?
He's trying hard, he's doing well to stay in there.
He stayed with them to 3, but let's see if he's still there. 9:19 through 3K.
3:06 pace.
And that was a 77 the last lap.
So it should be bang on 15:30 pace, I think, 3:06s.
Yeah, but they're dropping, right? They were 15:20, sort of a 1200 to go. It's just starting to fade down a little bit. That was a 77. They'd run 75 the lap before, so I mean, you'd expect the heat to be getting to them again. Leafland still doing the work up the back, but Phillips sitting on his shoulder now rather than wanting to take up the work. I tell you what, given how laboured Baker's been for the last K, that's a really solid effort to hang on there. I think that's Georgia Wassell I just saw warming up over the back. I'm guessing she's going to go in one of these 800s, is she?
I wouldn't be surprised if yes, she is. She'll go on the middle lanes, and we saw a really good performance from her against Jella Hancock Cameron in the New South Wales Miles at the Crest last week. So see if she can go 2:06 in that race she ran.
It's good to see her on the comeback, Georgia, because at her best she's very, very good. An Australian representative. I think she made the final in that might have been that Poland World Juniors. I think
she may actually won bronze.
Yeah,
there's a medalist there.
Yeah, certainly prominent. So at her best, she's absolutely international, top class, and just sort of struggled a bit for a few years, but good to see her on the comeback.
So there's Baker.
Just got a bit gloomy for a second, isn't it? We are getting some cloud cover, which would be very welcome for these athletes.
I was just going to mention Baker's just fallen off now, so his efforts are.
Yeah, you can see the gap there.
Yeah, have a look at the watch. He's hanging in there. You feel from day, you know, he's certainly like no man's land.
Could be a long 1400 for him. But let's see. Now let's just have a look in behind him there. So Ben Hasler of Olds A's made the trip up from Melbourne. Good to see. And that's Maximus Booth Martinez from Bathurst. Certainly hope to see him out having a run next week.
Well, it's worth mentioning that Bathurst actually recently affiliated as Athletes New South Wales Club in the new year, so it's great to have a couple of Bathurst athletes. Miller Ribbett also going around here for Bathurst in the C races. This is Harrison Phillips now. It's just starting to stretch away from the Gold Coast athlete Joseph Leafland, and could be a telling move. Leafland looks very, very comfortable, but just starting to lag a little bit now in the white top, and Harrison's certainly looking the best of those three athletes in that lead pack a couple of laps ago.
You can see the gap opening up now. That's a sizable margin as they run up to 1,000 metres to go. They were 9:19 through 3K, and we'll get the 4K split here now at 12:29 or thereabouts. So 3:10. Solid enough, but they are drifting obviously outside that 15:30 pace, probably looking more now like 15:40, 15:45. But you can see here that you get these trains form in these distance championships, one being led there by Sean Goh of Singapore. I told you there was another Singapore athlete on the start list.
Good call.
And he's leading a group probably 6 or 8 deep.
Well, I'll tell you what, Harrison Phillips, it's a good step up for him. He actually took out the men's 3K D race in November this year. This season, just in front of Isaac Beecroft and another athlete in this field, Maximus Booth Martinez of Bathurst. So this is an impressive performance. 8:58 flat he ran in that 3K, and based on how he's running here over the 5, you'd have to say this is an even better performance thus far.
Phillips working hard up the back. Shared a lot of the work with Leafland early, but running through with 600 to go. He's dropped Leithland as well as Baker.
Yeah, that gap is, it's 70, 75 metres. Leithland just going past the 200 metre mark now, so very strong last couple of laps here from the run crew athlete. So coming down the home straight for the penultimate time. Love the neon green shoes as well. Big fan of those spikes. 14:20 into the bell. So can he muster a sub 70 here for a sub 15:30? He's starting to go, so might be in the back of his mind.
He has got a bit of cloud cover, which is good.
Yeah, he's certainly starting to go now. You can see that gate picking up. So keen for this sub 15:30. 47 seconds to go now. See what he'll have to close in from 200 to go.
Yeah, it's gonna be an ask. He'll have to run about a 33 thereabouts.
Doable. If he gets the skates on.
You can see the gap he's opened up
That's
all
huge,
the way
isn't it?
back to Leithland now, so
Wow.
he's really kicked away the last 1,000 metres or so. But Phillips, 15:30 the target. Gonna have to run about 16 for the last
Big chance.
100.
Big chance.
Dig,
Come on, Harrison.
dig deep, son.
Oh, he sees the clock. Has he got anything left? His form is looking fantastic. He's going to be just
missed.
outside,
Yeah.
isn't he?
Big effort. Well done. 15:31. Unofficial. You see the time on the board there.
Oh, wow. Some big moves now back in the field. And just collecting the bell there, Brendan Felice, but coming across the line, Sebastian Havens. So 15:49 for Havens. He takes second just in front of Ben Hasler of Old Severians for third. And then there's Don Bullock, David Baker, brave run from him. Stefan Dean Smith there of Kembla Joggers as well. Lockie Oates coming across, so just either side of 16 minutes, all those gents. Good running there at 3:12 per kilometre pace. Very good in these conditions. Booth Martinez at Bathurst just finishing off his 5k there, 16:22 he'll finish in. And his teammate Miller Ribbett will go sub 16:30 in his final hit out before that golden ticket race. Matt Dawson just over 16:30 for Delta Rain Project. Aaron Houston, the T20 para athlete, great run there from Aaron, 16:35 there or thereabouts. So excellent run by him. He's based out of Orange, so another one of those Central West athletes. Matt North, VCS North there, well under the 17 metre mark. Brendan Felice, who I think actually led the race early on. Just faded back, he'll finish just over 17 minutes with one more athlete to come in. Just coming into picture now, that'll be Ren Schoen Balnave of Ramwick Botany. So good win there to Harrison Phillips in the men's 5k C race for Run Crew. And we will move on to the main session next. So next race, and actually thankfully we had that break because we're going to be right back on time in 6 minutes, the women's 400 metre A race.
So we'll take a little break here. About a 6-minute gap, as Jimmy mentioned, until the next of our feature races in the main program. We'll be back with you shortly.
Cross country, the purest sporting contest. No gimmicks, no equipment, no roads, no assistance. Just you against the terrain, plus whatever nature brings. The World Athletics Cross Country Championships always attract a roll call of the very best there's ever been. There's no other distances here, no medal for 3,000 or 5 or 10. Just one chance, dominated by a select few. Ethiopia and Kenya have won every women's team medal since '95, and only once in 40 years has the men's team medal gone to anyone else. But they've never done it here. Mount Panorama, Bathurst, New South Wales. The mountain, the spiritual home of Australian sport, relentlessly challenging, and now home to the first World Athletics Series event on the island continent in 25 years. More than 60 nations, more than 550 competitors, the cream of Australian running facing the best from across the globe. Can anyone topple the dominance of the African nations at a festival of sport with a distinctly Aussie flavour? The 44th World Athletics Cross Country Championships, Bathurst, February 18, 2023.
It's good to go one up from last year. Last year I got second here, so yeah, I'm happy I came out away with the win. It gives you, points for the 5,000, lets you run at the Oceanas, I think, so yeah, it's quite important for the World Champs in Com Games.
Definitely a special moment for me, coming off injury and just jumping into opens this year. It's good to start off strong and it's a good base for me to work upwards from.
I'm pretty happy with that with the season. I think that's my best ever. So to have that under load is pretty exciting. My goal as an athlete is always to win. I'm not here to get fourth. I'm not here to get third. Like, my goal is to win. Is it realistic to win this year? I think so.
Good confidence booster to get the win against those girls. They're also talented and everyone's in really good shape at the moment.
World Athletics Cross Country Championships, Bathurst 23. We are on the course here. This is Mount Panorama. We've got the runners out there. It's an amazing 2-kilometre loop that we've prepared here in Bathurst, 2.5 hours west of Sydney, and we're looking forward to welcoming the world on February 18, 2023. The first time Australia's ever hosted the World Athletics Cross Country Championships. It'll be the 44th edition of this event and only the second time ever on the Southern Hemisphere. There'll also be a full range of mass participation races, so athletes will be able to experience the course the day before. There'll be fun runs, kids events, masters events. People of all ages and abilities will be able to experience this course like these athletes have been able to do today.
We have a 2K lap that the athletes will be doing multiple times depending on their age. The spectators will be able to get up nice and close to the athletes each time. We have different aspects at different stages. We've got 11% grade. We've also got a mud section to mirror what happened at the last World Cross Country. It's an uphill start, 250 metres. Then we hook across towards Conrod Straight, and then we go down into the Billabong section, which is very technical. Then we have a big climb coming up, basically back up to the highest point of the course. Then from there we go down into the vineyard section, which again is another uphill section. Then we cross back down to Mountain Straight, where we have a downhill stretch where the athletes will probably be going upwards of 2 minutes 30 per K, and then we hook back towards the finish line, and then they go out to do a multiple lap.
It felt like it was constant discomfort. If it's not the uphills, it's the mud pits and just your feet sinking into the ground. But it was fun being out there with everyone and just kind of fighting to get the race done. Definitely what cross country is all about. It's always fun to challenge yourself. As you leave Sydney and you start driving through the mountains, it's just seeing how beautiful the country is. That'll be great.
I loved Bathurst. Bathurst today because it's local. So we're just down the road in Orange, so it was lovely to come to an event nearby and test out the course, which I'm a big fan of. So we will definitely be here. There's no way we're missing it. You know, such a major event. So excited. Like, what a special thing to have so close to home.
Oh, it's tough, but you know what they say, you always remember the tough courses, you never remember the easy ones. I'm looking forward to just see everyone from across the world run. I think it's going to be a really, really good event. It'll be interesting to see who takes it out and what tactics are involved. And yeah, super keen to see it.
Welcome back to SOPAC, ladies and gentlemen. New South Wales 5,000 metre championships just about to get underway with the main program, and for those playing along at home, that's the timetable of where we're due to go for the next hour and a half or so. Just running about 2 or 3 minutes behind now. That little gap in the program's allowed us to catch up some time, and the next event on the track will be the women's 400 metre B race. Pardon me, the women's 400 metre A race. Only the A races in these support races, the 4 and the 8. I think that's right, isn't it, Jimmy? Yeah, only A races. And that's the start list there. Emily Smith for Sydney Pacific, Kate Warby for UTS Norths, Rowena Craker for Sydney Pacific, Jen Cowie for Sydney University, Olivia Kaysen for Norths, Jess Thornton unfortunately is scratching, Alice Dixon and Gabriella Taylor, both of UTS Norths, round out the field here for the women's 400 metres. And just looking at the start list, and unfortunately this is the only problem with these support races, is you get the occasional scratching, and it looks like we do not have, as well as Jess, Olivia Kaysen by the looks of it. And okay, so these, sorry, pardon me, these have changed a little bit from when I did that graphic. So we don't seem to have Jade Almeida of Norths in 1. I'll just run through this again just in case it's been changed from that graphic. So it looks like we've got Emily Smith in 2 for Sydney Pacific, Kate Warby in 3 for UTS, Rowena Craker in 4 for Sydney Pacific, 5 and 6 Olivia Cosen and Thornton both vacant, and we do have Alice Dixon, Gabriella Taylor and Emily Strecker of UTS, and Illawarra Blue Stars respectively on the outside of the track. It's a solid field for the women's 400 nonetheless. getting ready for intros now in the stadium. Field of 6 for this women's 400. Just being introduced to the stadium now. So we've got these 2 400 races, and then we've got a couple of 800s as well, which should be crackers actually. And then into the B and A championship events. Still warm at SOPAC, but just about right to get underway now for the main program here, the 5K champs. And we'll kick things off with the women's 400 metres. So cleanly away, and a field of 6 pretty quickly away on the outside is Gabriella Taylor of UTS North, and also Craker in the middle of the track as they head up the back. Pretty even still in the race, but Craker probably going the best of them in the centre of the track, and Taylor picks up the stagger on Strecker on her outside. So Craker and Taylor as they swing into the home turn, but Craker starting to really come into a running now for Sydney Pacific, and is dropping the field very strongly with 120 metres to go. Good run in behind her from Kate Warby of UTS North, but Craker all by herself out the front now. Warby runs into second position for North, just in front of Dixon, who's challenging her for second place, but it's all Craker out the front, and she takes the win for Sydney Pacific, 55-30 unofficial. Dixon did enough late to get up for second ahead of Kate Warby. And Emily Smith was strong in her running towards the end as well. But absolutely unchallenged at the front was Rowena Craker from the middle of that race. Too good for them in the women's 400.
Yeah, lovely run by Craker. Really came into it, 150 to go, pulled away from the girls. Great running there by Gabby Taylor of UTS Norths, coming into her first year of under 20s this year, as well as her teammate, on her inside, Alice Dixon as well, going into her first year of opens. So a lot of these girls stepping up in age groups this year, and nice start to their February.
So the men's 400 next on the track. We'll see how much of this still remains the same from earlier today, and at least on paper it is all consistent. So that is the start list for the men's 400 metres. Hayden Fleming goes on the inside for Sydney University. Lockie Ash of Campbelltown in 2. Liam Webb, University of New South Wales, in lane number 3. Luke Van Ratingen, of UTS. Ian Halpin, the Australian World Relays representative for Bankstown, in lane number 5. Jamie Smith of Illawong in 6. Timothy Sankey of Sydney University in 7, and Ivan Balak rounds out a full field of 8 for Essex West, or just West nowadays. And looking at the track, it looks like we've got all of them but for lanes 1 and 8. So you can take out Hayden Fleming and Ivan Balach. The rest of them good to go in the men's 400 metre feature race here at the 5K champs.
Clean start, pretty even across the board, out very quickly on the outside. Timothy Sankey trying to go with him at the moment. Jamie Smith of Illawong, Ian Halpin just a step behind at the moment, but starting to come into it on the back straight. And Van Ratingen having an excellent first 150 here as well. It's probably Van Ratingen in the UTS North strip there in red in the middle of the screen, just with the edge over Halpin now as they come through with 180 to go. Battling through the inside, Liam Webb, NSW trying to get himself into the picture, but Ben Rattingen will lead them into the home straight. Ken Halpin start to eat back of that lead. He's trying hard, and Halpin is starting to come. Ben Rattingen holding him off at the moment. Ian Halpin is pushing him. Ben Rattingen lifts again. And let's go with the UTS North athlete to get over the top. 46.78. It's an excellent run there by Luke Ben Rattingen. Ian Halpin goes sub 47 as well. And I think it might have been Jamie Smith fast finishing there through a long reap speed, but 46.7, that is some serious running and a really good men's 400 metre A race there. Two real contenders there, particularly for the New South Wales State Open final we'll see in a few weeks' time here on the same track, Matt.
Absolutely. You just thought Halpin might come at Van Rattingen late, but good enough to hold on was Van Rattingen.
And that really helps as well when you've got someone on your inside pushing you, because then it just sort of lifts you the extra gear and maybe a couple of tenths quicker than we might run otherwise to get under that 47 mark. So that's some good early season running there from the Norse athlete. Turning 22 this year, so plenty of years to come for him.
Of course, Jimmy, the World Cross Country Championships not the only main event coming up in Sydney. Also the Sydney Track Classic. Tickets on sale now. And plenty of superstars due to come out to Sydney for that for that event. Matt Centrowitz and Fred Curley announced in the last couple of weeks.
Big names, world champion names there, and Olympic champions. It's really exciting. Of course, off the back of AA's announcement for the Melbourne Track Classic at Continental do at Gold Meet, where the beneficiaries, it has to be said, of the Americans sticking around and doing their thing in Sydney. Fred Curley's going to be in the 400 metres confirmation of that, and that's really exciting because he was part of the 4x400 metre Team USA, which won the gold medal at Doha World Championships. His PB is an astonishing 43.64. It's 3/4 of a second quicker than the Australian record. It's 1.3 seconds quicker than Steve Solomon, who's the quickest going around. Yeah. So it's just, he's a phenomenal athlete over the 1, 2 and 4.
And one of the only athletes ever to have broken 10 seconds, 20 seconds, and 44.
10, 20, 44. Yeah. Yes, yeah. And he wants to go quicker. He's talking about sub 42s, or sub 43, I think, and sub 9. He's got big goals, and that's why he's just so exciting. If you're not following him on Instagram, do yourself a favour. There's plenty of motivational quotes and things to get you out of bed for your morning session. Fantastic athlete, fantastic person. And of course, Centro coming back for the first time in 5 years as well for the 3K. Yeah. We'll talk about that in a moment's time.
Run 3:37, I think last time he was out for 1500. But let's have a look at the women's 800 metre field, the next of our feature races on this 5,000 metre championships program. And a big field here of 11 athletes. We'll check if they're all there, but that's how they line up on screen. In fact, we've got an amended start list from what appears there on screen. In position number 1, Emma Whedon of West, Natasha Ward for Sutherland in hip number 2, Tia Brady, Newcastle runners in 3, Georgia Wassell, who we've talked about already in the program for Sydney University in 4, continuing a fine return to form for her after a long time with some struggles. Davina Smith for Sutherland in 5, Taisha Buchanan for Athletics Wollongong in 6, Matilda Delfs for Sutherland in 7, Kira Tui for Sutherland in 8, Fangling Su of Randwick Botany in 9, Jade Almeida for UTS North in 10, and Bronwyn Poole of Newcastle Flyers round out a big field of 11 in what is a very strong women's 800 metre race, Jimmy.
Yeah, and look at a couple of the juniors in there. Kira Tui turning 14 this year, Matilda Delfs turning 15 this year, and Tia Brady on screen. There's Georgia Wassell, probably the favourite for this one in 4. Davina Smith there in 5 for Sutherland, but some of our juniors, Taisha Buchanan turning 17 this year, and And there's Matilda Delfs. She's an under 16 athlete, and Kira Tui, the shortest athlete in the field at under 15. So fantastic for these girls to really get an opportunity to go up against the likes of Georgia Wassell, Davina Smith and Tia Brady in the middle. Should be a fascinating race, this one. So can Wassell continue her return to form? She goes in 4 right in the middle of the field in the Sydney Uni kit. There is the white top and the blue bottoms. Also going on the inside, Natasha Ward of Sutherland Districts up on the inside. She's going to go close to taking the lead, and coming across on the outside there is Davina Smith, and the blue top there is Sutherland Districts, and Smith is going to lead them through the 200 metre mark in about 30 seconds. So good going here. Davina Smith, then comes Georgia Wassell, Natasha Ward, and the other Sutherland athlete, I think, might be Matilda Dell. So there's plenty of Sutherland athletes up there early on, but Davina Smith starting to open up a gap with Georgia Wassell tracking her every move. Also featuring there Tia Brady, Newcastle runners, just trying to get on the outside, but Smith has broken this field apart, and it was a quick first 200. They're coming up to the bell rapidly at the moment, and it's only going to be just outside that minute mark. They're going to go through in 1:02.2. You
can see how important that positioning is, because Tia Brady had to come all the way 3 wide up the main straight to put herself into that 3rd position where she is now for Newcastle. But all the action at the front of the field with Davina Smith for Sutherland and Wassell for Sydney University sitting on her shoulder, and you just fancy, Jimmy, that Wassell poised to pounce here as they head up the back straight. You can see it just peeling off the shoulder on the head-on shot there, and just looking to hit Smith at the right time. Question is, when does she go? They come around the home turn now. Smith's still looking comfortable, but the taller figure of Wassell starting to get up around her. Good battle going on for 3rd position, but all eyes on the front. Wassell goes early, 150 to run. She gets to the front of Davina Smith, who did all the early work up to 600. Wassell with 100 to run into the straight. Smith doesn't look like she's got a response, and all the chat a week ago at Milers about the return of Georgia Wassell proves to be right, and here tonight she franks that form, and she's going to put another 2:06 on the board, 2:07.05. Davina Smith in 2nd from Athletics Wollongong. Taisha Buchanan gets into 3rd as the rest of the field comes over the line, but the return continues, Jimmy, and Georgia Wassell looking to get back to the serious end of Australian 800 metre running with nationals on the horizon.
Oh, it's a good run, the heat, isn't it? 2:07, almost flat there, 2:07.05 I think the finishing time was. So she backs up her 2:06, coming 2nd to Jayla Hancock Cameron. We know some sensational form Jayla's been in. So that's a really good couple of races strung together by Wassell, and she's going to be forced come state opens, particularly her and Jayla are going to be matching up again. Of course, the best in New South Wales will be back here in 3 weeks' time. So exciting times there, and ultimately just great to see Georgia back at it and running well.
There's parallels with Holly Campbell as well, isn't there? If you go back a couple of seasons, we were talking all through the Milers series about Holly getting back to her best, and now she pulls on an Australian singlet next week at the World Cross Country. Georgia's done that before at junior level, but yet to do it in the Opens, and good to see her returning to something approaching her best form with state and national titles on the horizon. But let's have a look at the men's 800, another good field here, and I don't think any changes to this one from earlier today. So Tom March for Kembla Joggers, Robert Dickinson for Bankstown, Obsa Youssef, watch for him in lane in position 3 for Sydney University, Mason Cohen of Norths in 4, Josh Atkinson also of Norths in 5, Lawson Filter of Armidale in 6, Corey Firminger of Norths in 7, and Thomas Verona of Norths in 8. So 4 of the 8 athletes in this field running for Norths. So they just get introduced to the crowd, but 2 fine 800 metre races here, Jimmy.
Well, and it has to be said, we've got an 800 going on at the Adelaide Invitational, so we're Sands, Jai Perrott, Lockie Raper and Luke Boyes, who would absolutely be in this field if it weren't a track classic going on in South Australia. So how good is this field without those 3 gents? And 800 metre men's running in New South Wales at the moment, my goodness, it is going very, very well. And I wouldn't be surprised if we get a couple of Australian singlets come the Budapest World Championships in a few months' time. Just a bit of unsteadiness there. Lawson Fittler of Armidale just touching the hand on the ground, so I'll try and get them away at second time of asking. Good field here for the men's 800 metre A race, the last of our main program events over the 2 laps. And it's Josh Atkinson in that headband, hip number 5 for UTS North. He will take the early leading. Lawson Fittler in the lime green of Armidale just coming across now. Rob Dickinson just don't want to get boxed up on the inside. Obviously Yusuf, he was fantastic over the 1500 metres at Milers last week. He'll be looking to make some dents in this field as Atkinson sends them around in 25 through the first 200 metres. The Thailand international athlete doing sensational things on the international stage and coming back to domestic. Tom Vergona also there for UTS North. There's a sea of red with a little bit of lime green parting the sea at the moment, and Atkinson leads them through at 53.6. So we're on here for something pretty quick. 147 pace at the moment. Josh Atkinson leading them out single file from Fittler and Cohen. Obsi Yusuf, watch for him late as always, and he's starting to make a move now.
Atkinson's done all the work up the first 500 metres, and now you can see Obsi Yusuf starting to peel wide and make his move around the shoulder of Fittler, who's just got boxed in a little bit behind Atkinson. Mason Cohen trying to go with them as well. Yusuf has a look over the shoulder, but there's 4 on the front at the moment. Atkinson now just starting to get swallowed up by Yusuf, but has a response with 120 to run. Into the straight, still Atkinson has made every poster winner so far. Yusuf on his outside, Fittler and Cohen battling it out for the Miners, but this is a huge run from Atkinson. Yusuf coming at him, but Atkinson trying to make every poster winner and will lead gun to tape and take a mighty win. 149.88, they've gone sub 150. That's a breakout performance for Atkinson. Brilliant run to hold off Obsi Yusuf, who's run past so many of them in 800s on this track over the years. That's a fine performance. I think Jimmy's just checking the PBs to see if it is his first time under 150. He's done it before, but fine running nonetheless, and more so from a tactical perspective, Jimmy, his ability to hold off Yusuf, who was shooting at him late.
Jeez, not many athletes would be holding off Yusuf in that scenario. He came about 3 or 4 times around that last half of the last bend and then down the straight, and Atkinson responded every time and lifted, and you could just see Yusuf dip the head with about 20 metres to go. He knew he'd just been outdone today, but a great race there overall. Leaving behind the 150 for a second, that is just a fantastic 2-lap race between 2 stars on the domestic scene. Good to see Mason Cohen bounce back after what he would consider a fairly disappointing performance in Canberra. So it's good to see, of course, the fridge back in the 150 zone, and he's there or thereabouts, isn't he? Like, if Mason gets up and going, we know he's a 3-time national bronze medalist. Would love to see him get back into, that form that he had a few years ago too.
A little break now, just before the final 4 races of the night, the men's and women's 5,000 metre championships, the B races and the A races. We'll take a quick break and be back shortly.
Cross country, the purest sporting contest. No gimmicks, no equipment, no roads, no assistance. Just you against the terrain, plus whatever nature brings. The World Athletics Cross Country Championships always attract a roll call of the very best there's ever been. There's no other distances here, no medal for 3,000 or 5 or 10, just one chance, dominated by a select few. Ethiopia and Kenya have won every women's team medal since '95, and only once in 40 years has the men's team medal gone to anyone else. But they've never done it here. Mount Panorama, Bathurst, New South Wales. The mountain, the spiritual home of Australian sport, relentlessly challenging, and now home to the first World Athletics Series event on the island continent in 25 years. More than 60 nations, more than 550 competitors, The cream of Australian running facing the best from across the globe. Can anyone topple the dominance of the African nations at a festival of sport with a distinctly Aussie flavour? The 44th World Athletics Cross Country Championships, Bathurst, February 18, 2023.
It's good to go one up from last year. Last year I got second here, so yeah, I'm happy I came out away with the win. It gives you, points for the 5,000, lets you run at the Oceanas, I think, so yeah, it's quite important for the World Champs in Com Games.
Definitely a special moment for me, coming off injury and just jumping into opens this year. It's good to start off strong and it's a good base for me to work upwards from.
I'm pretty happy with that with the season. I think that's my best ever. So to have that under load is pretty exciting. My goal as an athlete is always to win. I'm not here to get fourth. I'm not here to get third. Like, my goal is to win. Is it realistic to win this year? I think so.
Good confidence booster to get the win against those girls. They're all so talented and everyone's in really good shape at the moment.
I reckon people will get around it. Like, it's an exciting thing to watch cross country.
I'm obviously checking out the course yesterday and today. I think it's going to be a cross country course like no other, so we're excited to be here and can't wait.
I mean, it's tough, but I think it will sort some people out.
You get to see like the terrain changing every sort of 150 metres.
Oh, it's super exciting. I mean, we can have the whole of Australia behind us here and hopefully have as many spectators from home.
We've got really good runners. We've got the best runners in the world being here, so yeah, definitely come watch.
So back here at the 5K Championships, and we're just getting ready for the two final 5K races in each of the women's and the men's. The women's 5,000 metre B race will be first cab off the rank, and that's the start list there. 21 athletes in it. So Svetlana Kudasheva of Hills District, Amy Take of UTS Norths, Caitlin Roach of Sydney University, Emma O'Sullivan for Wollongong, Nancy Newton of Randwick Botany, Aspen Lambert for Sydney University, Olivia Savilis of Athletics Wollongong, Celeste Carolyn runs in hip number 8 for Kembla Joggers, Vanessa Lee of Singapore, Kate Geisen of Kembla Joggers, Nicole Williamson of Orange, Annie Fotheringham of the University of New South Wales, Alicia John of UTS Norths, Kristen Piper of West, Claire Hay of Delta Running Project, Ash Gardner runs for Kembla Joggers inside Melissa Morford of Delta, Caitlin Tan is another West athlete, inside Alison Colgan and Belinda Thornton, both of Run Crew, and Emma Hoskins for the Hills District rounds out another big field of 21 in the women's 5,000 metre B race, and they're still just getting themselves organised over on the far side of the track, due to get underway about 3 minutes ago, so we're not too far away from the start there. And you can see there on screen the rest of the timetable. So 7:53 the scheduled start time for the men's 5,000 metre B race, and the two championship events due to get underway at 8:12 and 8:32. But with a slight break in proceedings, we might just take another quick break while we get ready for the B races here at SOPAC.
I reckon people will get around it. Like, it's an exciting thing to watch cross country.
I'm obviously checking out the course yesterday and today. I think it's going to be a cross-country course like no other, so we're excited to be here and can't wait.
I mean, it's tough, but I think it will sort some people out.
You get to see like the terrain changing every sort of 150 metres.
Oh, it's super exciting. I mean, we can have the whole of Australia behind us here and hopefully have as many spectators from home.
We've got really good runners. We've got the best runners in the world being here, so yeah, definitely come watch.
Okay, so just about right to go in the women's race. It's the B 5,000 metre championship. And just being held slightly. So off they go in the first of 4 of our main event races tonight at the New South Wales 5K Championships. And split starts for these big fields, 21 in this race, and a very quick start there on the far outside from Alison Colgan of Run Crew. Yeah, just inside her as well as Melissa Morford, I think that is for Delta, but you can see Alison Colgan might have something to prove here about which race she should have been in, because she's gone through the first 200 in about 36 seconds or so. So absolutely flying at the front of the field. And they're just sorting themselves out behind her, but this field strung out over 70 or 80 metres, just 300 metres into the race. So you can see there the gap that's already been opened up, and much more bunched towards the back of the field. But Alison Colgan has gone through a 75 for the first lap. Claire High is the athlete in behind her for Delta, and Kristen Piper for Wests sitting in third. That next pack kind of led there by Olivia Civilis of Athletics Wollongong. But the field well and truly strung out by Colgan. We'll see if she's able to maintain this tempo, and if so, for how long. But already Claire High of Delta starting to close up the gap a little bit as they run through 600 metres, and Colgan goes through in about 1:59. So slowed things down a little bit there, about an 83. And Claire High now starting to get up onto her back even before we get through the first 800 metres. So Colgan might have just got a bit excited there that first lap. And Claire High now getting up onto her back as they run up towards the 800. So we mentioned earlier in the program some very good fields here in the A races, headlined. Probably the biggest name in the whole meet will be Holly Campbell in the women's A race, just a week before she lines up in the World Cross Country Championship. And see a little bit further back in the field there, we've got Nancy Newton and Aspen Lambert running together, just starting to get up onto the back now of Kristen Piper of Wes, and they're joined there by Olivia Sevillas, I think that is as well. But the very early sprinting Alison Colgan has been wheeled back by Claire High as they go through 1 kilometre in about 3:27 or thereabouts, and an 88 there. So after running a 36-second first 200 at Colgan, also known as 72-second 400 pace, they've gone through at 83.88, and Claire High has picked her up as they go through the first K. Also some good action happening in Adelaide, Jimmy.
Yeah, there is. The program has kicked off. Some of the, I think they had the men's 100C race actually, just taken out in 10:63 by Michael Ramadan. So 10:63 for a C race is a very good indication of a deep field there for the sprints.
Not that we'd ever encourage anyone to turn off and.
So some good running out the front here. Alison Colgan of Run Crew and Claire Hay of the Delta Running Project. Again, we've seen the dominance of those two clubs over the last few grade races, haven't we? And here we go again, the women's B race. The first of our women's graded races here. As we can see, crowd getting up into lane 4 and lane 5 to support the ladies. Great to see.
Important here at the big stadium as well, because it's hard to get atmosphere into the bigger grounds as they run through at 4:55 or thereabouts. So let's add another 88. So holding the pace now nicely after that quick start is Colgan. Just going to have a look at the weather here again. So we mentioned at the start of the broadcast it was about 31. It's still 28 degrees here at SOPAC.
Jeez.
Despite being now just going on to 20 to 8 local time. And the humidity up to 53%. So the effective temperature about 29. Very warm conditions here at SOPAC. Fortunately, no rain on the horizon, but still very, very warm conditions here. Maximum of 36 earlier today. And the only thing these athletes have got going for them is that as we get closer to sunset in about 20 minutes, at least the track is fully in the shade now. Whereas some of those boys in the D and E men's 5K races were really slogging it out when the track was about 300 odd metres in the sun. So Colgan still doing well to hang on to the lead here. They've been running 88s or thereabouts, through now in about 6:23, and what do you know, it's another 88.
Yeah, nice consistent running by these ladies out in front, holding the pace really well. You can see a nice chase back there led by Kristen Piper of West Track and Field. I think it might be the Newcastle athlete, is it? Just sneaking on the inside there. I can't quite pick that up. I don't know if you got that one.
We should get them coming down the back here.
Yeah. Might be the Sydney Uni athlete, sorry. No, Aspen Lambert, that is, on the inside there for Sydney University, hip number 6. So she's just leading the way with Piper, and also coming around the outside, Nancy Newton of Ramley Botany. So that gap, I think, is closing to Colgan and Hay. And featuring there also Olivia Sevillas of Athletics Wollongong.
Yeah, you would expect that to happen, especially with Colgan. I mean, I think Claire Hay was much more disciplined in the early start of the races, but for Colgan to go through in a 36 first 200, it's going to take the sting out of your legs later in proceedings. So I'd fully expect this pack to close back up to Colgan at least. We just have a look at the second half of this field on screen now.
Ashley Gardner of Kembla Joggers just leading that second chase pack. As we move back to the front, that gap is 10 metres now.
7:54 thereabouts there, so down to an 89. So just they've only slowed very slightly but it's an indication that this second pack has actually just picked things up a little bit, because the pace at the front has stayed relatively unchanged, and Aspen Lambert doing the chasing for this second group. Seen in behind her Olivia Civilis of Athletics Wollongong, and Nancy Newton there of Randwick Botany as well, and actually a move now coming down the outside from Vanessa Lee of Singapore. Mentioned throughout the night that there's been a few Singaporean nationals lining up in this field, and she's now put herself into third position in the run, right on the back of Hay. And so we've got ourselves a much more interesting race now, with a group of 6 at the front. Still led by Colgan, who's made every post a winner so far, but plenty lining up behind her now to have a shot. No one wanting to take up any of the running though, so Hay's been in second the run and on the shoulder of Colgan since about the first lap, 9:26, and so that's the first time it's really slowed noticeably, a 92 off the back of 88s, 89s that they've been running, so that's why it's closed up, because the pace at the front has now slowed. And Vanessa Lee, the Singaporean national, sitting in third position now, just on the shoulder of Aspen Lambert for Sydney University. Newton in behind them, and then comes Civilis. So pack of 6 now, and maybe this the first of the moves. Aspen Lambert and Lee of Singapore just getting around the shoulder of Claire High, who fades into fourth, and a Civilis and Newton just not able to go with it at the moment. So a little bit of a gap starting to emerge as Vanessa Lee also takes the lead from Colgan. So the first change at the front, with 6 laps with 2k to run, so just coming up to 3,000 now. And Vanessa Lee now sits at the front of the field. Claire High does have a response here and just starts to get back onto the shoulder of Lambert for second, but Lee will come through 3 kilometres in 10:54, I reckon, and just screwed it back down to an 88, so that's why you see her lead at the front there. 92 the lap before, and they're down to an 88. As they head up to the back straight, spied Athletics Australia President Jan Swinhoe walking in the stadium. No doubt here to watch daughter Eloise Doherty a bit later. Good to see the big dogs out supporting. Plenty of her team down in Adelaide at the Adelaide Invitational. This lead just starting to open up a bit. 10:54, what pace does that work out to, Jimmy?
About 3:38 pace, which is tick over 18 minutes. I'd say about 18:10, 18:15, around about that pace, which I think is around about where the top end of this field is at. Around about that 18-minute mark is a lot of these ladies' personal bests. So this is about right, with Lee just putting in another couple of metres into that chase pack. Aspen Lambert doing a good job there. This is Singaporean who looks strong out in front. Lambert looks very comfortable though.
That's
as well with the miles
good
going.
lap as well, 86 there. So
Yeah.
they were sort of running 88s early on, and then blew out to 89, 92, and then Lee's managed to screw it right back down to 88 and an 86 there. But credit to Lambert, Hay and Civilis, they're able to go with her.
Lambert's had a good season so far, actually setting PBs. One of the races she's run, 1500 metre race at the Crest last week, Matt, in the mile. It's 4:38 she ran. That was her personal best over the 3 3/4 lap distance. Ran PB at Albie Thomas over the mile, 5 flats. So she's in good form. 800 metre PB in December, 2:15. So essentially, her whole World Athletics profile has been updated in the last couple of months. She's going really well at the Sydney Athlete, and actually a tip-off from James Fitzgerald, of course, head of athletics at Sydney Uni now. He did tell me that Aspen's going very well, so it'd be interesting to see if she can break away from that chase spec, and actually I think she has just moved into the lead here. Yeah, that is her. So just sliding in front of Vanessa Lee of Singapore, then comes Claire Hay and Olivia Seville's. That's that 4 on screen.
Interestingly, have a look at the watch there as well. So it's tactically taken the lead of the race, but still very much running to pace, and Lee actually surging back on the outside and will still lead them with 1200 to go as they go through the line, 13:49. So again, a little bit of a fade there down to an 89. So it did slow up a little bit. So Lee and Lambert, and then a gap of about 10 metres or so back to High. Then Sevillis in behind them. You can see them working their way up the back straight. Now this will be the 4 kilometre mark when they hit 200 to go. 10:54 they were when they went through 3, and 14:34 as they go through now. So about a 3:40 as they go through 4K. And they'll see a pretty welcome 2 laps on the board as they come through. So 800 to run for Lee at the front, who picks up Lambert again. They've been hovering between 90s and 86s. They've been a little bit all over the place as the pace ebbs and flows. And through 800 to go in about 15:17. So another 88. Real battle of attrition here in the women's 5,000 metre B race, with Lee still on the front of Lambert.
So just a very quick update from Adelaide. I think it's
Cover your ears if you don't want any spoilers.
Oh, spoilers, yeah. Ellie Sanford's just taking out the women's 800 metre A race, 2:01.20 after a 57.9 first lap. Some questionable pacemaking there, but the leads went through, and Georgia Griffith just behind her in 2:01 mid. So some good 800 metre running in Adelaide. Of course, dual screen action only with the 5K on the other half of your screen.
So the front of this field, it's turned into a real battle of attrition, Jimmy. Colgan took the pace out early and did all the work through the first K or so, was then joined by Claire Hay, who's still sitting there in 4th. But Vanessa Lee made a move in the middle of the race and now makes a move again with 400 to go, although it does look to be a bit laboured, 16:45.
Yeah, it wouldn't be carrying Lambert out here at all. She's not letting her get away too much. Although she checks her watch again, so certainly time is on her mind. Maybe over the place.
Forget the pace now, just run to win. So Lee on the front, she really tried to break Lambert, didn't she, with 450 to go, but Lambert still there. It wasn't a decisive enough move to drop her by any means. And Lambert now, you can see as they get towards the lap traffic, is still trying to come at it, but Lee able to extend down the back and looks to have Lambert's measure for the time being as they run through with 200 to run. Good battle going in behind them, Claire Hay and Sevillis. Sevillis at the moment with the advantage of about 5 or 10 metres to Hay, who was brave early, and Colgan, the early leader, has fallen right off the back. But Vanessa Lee, the Singaporean national, too good for them in this women's 5,000 metre B race. Aspen Lambert, check her PB actually, because she's been looking at the watch all night. Hopefully she's close to it.
Doesn't actually
But
have one.
Vanessa Lee, well, she should have one in a minute, because this will certainly rank. But Vanessa Lee, too good for them in the women's 5K B race. A well-judged race. and it wins a battle of attrition with Aspen Lambert, who comes home to finish second, and a nice close there in an 81, having run 88s and 90s for most of the race. Claire Hay comes in fourth, just behind Olivia Civilis. And the rest of this field has been well and truly strung out, as you would expect from one of these B races. Good to see the crowd out on the track here.
Yeah, 336s over the last couple of K there for Vanessa Lee, so that's a strong finish. Actually, probably next split of that race. I think they've split second half quicker.
And there's Colgan, who finishes as quick as she started. And I think she's a run crew athlete, Jimmy. You might have to have a little word.
Oh no, she's is she?
Yeah.
Oh,
In your squad, I think you have to have a little word to her about pacing.
She's
36 for the first 200.
Jeez, it's not going to be me, mate. I'm definitely not any better than that. So, Gary or Ben or Katie Conlon, who's just given birth in the last couple of months. Congratulations to Katie and Ben.
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen some great social content of young baby Goldie, isn't
Goldie,
it?
yes. Goldie's St. Lawrence, I'm pretty sure.
Up in the Blue Mountains, getting lots of nature into her life early.
Wouldn't have it any other way, would they?
No, I think Goldie's probably had more nature in her life than I have in mine. 32, so I suspect it'll bode much better for her than it has for me. So some good gene pool there for Goldie. I'm sure she'll have some running shoes on in not too long. Big finish there from
Kembla, I thought.
The athletes, yeah.
Yeah, it was interesting. I was just having. I'm pretty sure we're going to see Ben St. Lawrence in just over half an hour's time in the championship men's race. It's interesting to see what Ben's going to do with his career. Sort of approaching 40 now and doing so well on his debut 50k at the UTA. He actually won it first crack at the ultra marathon on the trails. Could certainly just become a world champion at something else he chooses to. That's how much talent he's got.
Well, yeah, I mean, the way he was competing and medaling in some of the state 5k championships, the 3k championships, state 10s, late in his career, only a year or two ago, his longevity has been something very, very impressive. So getting ready now for the men's B race as we just bring in these final athletes in the women's event. And Sydney Uni's Caitlin Roach coming in just ahead of one of the Hills District athletes. So we've just about got all these women's B race athletes in. And one of the youngsters here, I think this will be the last of them, Emma Hoskins, I think that is, of Hills. And well done to her to come in for Hills District. So that'll round out the women's B race, and we'll waste no time and get over and have a look at the start list for the men's B race.
So big field of 22 in this one. Just going through the list now. Mitch Williamson of Orange in 1. Russ Desai-Chin, who we're going to see in the World Masters Cross Country Championships next weekend. He goes to Sydney Uni in the All Whites in 2. Flynn Hopkins of New South Wales in 3. Sam Jones of Illawarra Blue Stars in 4. Alec France of Albury. We had a very talented junior. We've seen him, I think, take out an all-schools race or 2. He goes in 5. Jonathan McLennan of Southern Districts in 6. Luke Wilson of Sydney University in 7. Alexander Shaw of Delta Running Project in 8. And he leads a trio of Delta runners with Lachlan Stanfield in 9 and Sam Hopper in 10. Jake Myers of Run Crew in 11. Oscar Bukovinsky of Run Crew in 12. Michael Daly of Bankstown Sports in 13. Grant Williams of Distance Culture in Queenslander 14, Anthony Morgan of Newcastle Runners in 15, Miles Goff of Kembla Joggers in 16, Ethan McKenzie of UCS North in 17, Luke Babbage of Newcastle Runners 18, Daniel Williams of Ipswich and Districts Queenslander 19, and another Queenslander, Drew Williams of Distance Culture of Queensland goes in 20, Jack Hillier of Delthrang Project in 21, and ACT's Michael Chapman in 22. And if you want to see some pretty decent athletics on your second screen, Ron Browning is about to go in the men's 100A race at the LA Invitational. We'll give a shout out to Rowan, probably worth a sprint shout out in probably a minute's time.
Rare for us, but when appropriate. When appropriate.
There's not many athletes that would sort of, properly stop talking about distance for, but Rowan is probably one of them.
World's fastest mullet.
Looking cool.
Are we still calling that a mullet? I'm
it's
not
long.
Sure that qualifies.
It's long. It's not as long as their glides, but
it's not Dermot Brereton 1980 AFL, right?
Like, showing your age now. I'll stay cool and hip into a glide. Jack Rayner? Jack Rayner's got a pretty decent one going. Brett Robinson. Josh has a party also featuring this race in New South Wales as well as Ishmael Dudu Kamara on his outside. This is a fun race. We're going to see a lot about these guys. We'll talk about the Sydney Track Classic next couple of races as well. But there's some good athletes coming to Sydney. I can't give too much away, but seeing the nominations come through, it's going to be a very exciting night of athletics, and it's actually a month away today, Saturday, 11th of March. So
yeah, well, there's some athletes we can reveal, and see. Some of them there on the bottom of your screen. Matt Centrowitz has been to the Sydney Track Classic before, as many people will remember. Ran sub 340 here in the 1500 last time he was out. 336 or 337 I think he ran. As towed some athletes to their first sub 340s. JJ ran his first 339. So the 1500 boys will be happy to see him back, and of course Fred Curley, the world's fastest man, who will run the 400. Now we don't want to hear any spoilers from Adelaide, maybe just cover your ears for a moment, but
good finish.
Rowan Browning, good enough to get the job done in about 10:25, but I think they're running in some headwinds down there as well.
Yeah.
Pretty impressive performance in the women's.
Plus 1.3 as well. The latest got a minus 2.4, so nice tally there.
Swirling around. Yeah. But the Sydney Track Classic, Rowan will be there as well. We're looking to have the world champion Eleanor Patterson here, as well as Nicola Olaslagers, formerly Nicola McDermott, and some exciting initiatives there. Going to be announced shortly about how you can get up close and personal with that action. But for the time being, we'll stick with the action here at SOPAC as they get underway in the men's B race here for the New South Wales 5,000 metre championships. It's such lovely middle distance conditions, but I think the reality is it's still very, very warm in Sydney, and indeed, as the sun just about sets here 10 minutes ago at SOPAC, it is still a balmy 27 degrees, and the humidity is only going up to 56% now, so make no mistake, it looks lovely on screen, but it is very, very warm out there for these athletes. And 33 seconds through the first 200 will have them working pretty hard as they head up the back. Good depth in this field, and there'll be plenty going around. So just having a look at the front of the field here.
Miles Goff.
Yeah, Miles Goff.
Mitch Williamson, the tall figure from Orange Runs, just behind him at the moment.
You'd see that not a huge injection of pace there as they go through 70 seconds for the first 400. The fact that so many of them, that's Sam Hopper out wide, are happy to sit 4 wide as they head up the back for the first time. Mitch Williamson sitting in second for Orange, and then one of the Sutherland athletes, I think Jonathan McClellan, in there in third.
look at young Alec France as well from Albury. You can see the very short figure there, the junior, mixing it with the big boys. Great to see that, actually.
Grant Williams, a little bit older, Distance Culture. I'm not familiar with Distance Culture. It's a new name for me. As they go through here in 147. So a 74 there for the second 400. So decent pace, but nothing too crazy. So you look at looking at 15-minute schedule there, as you can just overhear Brainy saying in the background, looking at about 72s, Jimmy, for 15 minutes, I think.
Is bang on, and that's exactly what they're doing at the moment. 224 miles golf leads them through, so a 70 followed by a 74 early stages. And whole field's still in contention there.
Coming up to a K now, so obviously 15 minutes, we'll be looking for bang on 3. I reckon they're going to be just outside that, I would fancy, through the first 1,000, but let's see where they go. A little bit of a move coming here right up the outside.
Drew Williams there, another one of the Queenslanders from Distance Culture. He's trying to join his teammate Grant Williams, probably do a lot of running together up in the sunny state. 3:01.94, so we are right on 15:09, 15:10 pace. I'm just trying to think, not a lot of these guys would have gone under that 15-minute mark, so it'd be good to see an honest pace early on, kept up 6 minutes through 2K, 9 minutes through 3K. Massive, it's pretty easy for this one.
It's going to be warm, isn't it, for a sub 15-minute attempt. And look at that short figure. That's a great shot on the outside, as you were mentioning earlier, Jimmy.
Alec France. So he actually came second in the 3K to
look at that, what a great shot.
Sensational athlete Matthew McLaughlin, who broke a couple of all schools records. So he's second to the best that we have. And look at this move. Sam Hopper is going to lead Alec France of Albury at the moment in the men's 5K open age P race. Great image. And hopefully some followers here for Alec as well. And these are proud mum and dad and maybe some family and friends watching along. This is great stuff. Did he just motion there to an athlete to go by him? Great stuff. Love that.
So bang on 72. So Hopper just, I think, making the move there to make sure this stays on 15-minute pace. Clearly there's a 15-minute bus here and everyone wants to be on it. And they're all lining up. Look at that, a lovely shot down the back straight as they string out into single file and head down the back. Some of them running 2x2, but there's a very distinctive 2K bus here forming. 15-minute bus, I should say. So Hopper and Fransky sitting at the front of the field. Hopper doing the honours for the moment. Fransky, look at the height difference there. It's exceptional. Just sitting in behind him is Anthony Morgan of Newcastle Runners. The Newcastle athletes always well represented at the distance championships in New South Wales, both the flyers and the runners. So they run through 5:23.
Oh, drink taken there by Sam Hopper. Just
yeah,
getting hydrated.
Into a 70 as well, so he just dropped a 70-second lap there.
That was very Inga Britson-like, wasn't it? Because he did that quite famously at the World Champs last year in the 5,000 metre final. Halfway through the race, went to lane 6, took a drink, went straight back to the front. So
I think he had a point to prove in that 5K, didn't he? The 1500 was an upset.
Bit of an alpha move.
I was fortunate to be in the stadium for that 1500 metre final, and
geez, they're getting a move on here, aren't they? A bit of injection of pace, and yeah. That's
so 5:59 through 2K. So bang on that 15-minute pace.
They've got moving that last lap because they've run 2:58.
Poor old Rust SHN struggling a bit at the back of that field. It's one of the great accomplished New South Wales distance runners. So sitting at the front now, Drew Williams, of distance culture, then Hopper, and then sitting in behind him, I just lost it earlier. So
Anthony Morgan of Newcastle Runners.
Anthony Morgan, yeah, thank you.
The white strip there. You can just see the gate. They're just. It's almost like something switched, and Hopper decided to put an injection, almost like a Kenyan injection of burst of energy. You see that so often in the international level races. A little bit of that happening there, but it looks like they just slowed down a little bit again.
You can see on screen just how much they're starting to stretch out there. They're going to be right on another 72, so 5:59 through 2 and another 72 there. So they're holding this 15-minute bus. Michael Daly there on screen as well in the old Bankstown singlet. But still a group of 4 of them here around that 15-minute schedule, and then a gap back to Luke Babbage of Newcastle Runners, who would be falling off that 15-minute pace at the moment.
Flynn Hopkins just joining those 3 now we mentioned earlier. I think Flynn might be from the ACT, so Darren just joining the ranks, and I think it might be one of the Newcastle, other Newcastle runners there. Luke Babbage, yeah, it is just sitting in 5th and trying to join that lead pack, not quite doing enough at the moment, and quickly falling out of touch. You probably want to make the move pretty shortly, and he's just settling back to that chase pack, and he's unique with young Al France just behind him.
They're still bang on, so 7:48 through there, and they can hold 72. They'll be dead on 9 minutes through 3K. But a few of them now just starting to fall off the back of Williams a bit. Hopper still in there, and they just worked to get across the bridge there, and it looks like they've done enough just to hang on for the time being. That's Anthony Morgan ahead of Hopper, and then Flynn Hopkins as well. So 4 of them still in it as they run up to 3,000 metres. They're going to be just outside 9, so about 9:02. So that slowed to a 74. And this is where it's really going to start to hurt Jimmy, especially with the conditions here.
You can just see the gate a couple of laps ago to where it is now. You can see how low Williams's feet are. They're almost not getting off the ground. It's a really low gate. You compare that to someone like Sam Hopper, who is bounding along, a couple of athletes behind him.
Yeah, he's going to need some help, Williams. They're not going to get to sub 15 by just following him up. And a change at the front now with Hopkins coming around the shoulder. Michael Daly now of Bankstown leading that chase pack, and he won't fade late at all. He's got really good marathon strength. He's another one of those athletes that gets amongst the ultra marathon running, but still running near 15-minute pace for 5K here, showing his versatility.
He's really leading that pack now. So Babbage was on the front and not really closing the gap. So Daly's taken it upon himself, and he's doing a good job here and actually pulling Babbage along with him. And they're now within a few steps of the back of that lead pack of Hopper.
This is really faded now. That's another 74.
And it's just opened the door.
10:16.
Michael Daly's probably not injected that much pace, but because that lead pack is just starting to falter a little bit.
Again, it can be deceptive, right? So Daly goes a bit conservative earlier in the run, but he's not necessarily picking up the pace here. He's just not falling off. Whereas the front pack, losing 2 or 3 seconds a lap, that's a big distance at this speed. And you can see they're starting to reconverge here.
Babbage is the happiest out of those front 6. He was searching for someone to help him out, and he's got it, and he has latched onto Daly's heels, and by virtue of him doing a lot of the work, the Newcastle Runners athlete will find himself pretty shortly in that front pack of 4, which is going to become 6.
You can see it converging here at the front. Hopper now sitting in that awful no man's land, not quite able to stay with the front pack, and he can just feel himself getting swallowed up at the back. There's some little moves going in behind there with Morgan just dancing across the heels of Hopkins as they Head down and see 1,200 metres to run.
Daly
Still
going?
Williams at the front of the field, and 11:31, so 75 there. You can kiss 15 minutes goodbye. That's not going to happen.
I was just about to mention is Daly going to pass the shoulder hopper, and he does, and he actually gets right in amongst those boys, and Williams has a look around and thinks, oh geez, 4 has become 6 and now it's a proper race.
See how laboured his style is there, right? I mean, it's a funny sort of style to begin with. A lot of arm movement at a really short sort of gait, but with 1,000 metres to run here, and we'll get a 4K split. Remember, they went through 9:02 for 3K as Daly peels wide. They go through 12:09 for 4K, so they faded to a 3:07.
That 4K, it really bites, doesn't it? Particularly in warm weather for the 5K. It's always the one which will make or break a PB, often makes or breaks a race as well. If you're feeling good at the 4K mark, or even okay, you're usually on for a pretty good race. But you know, if you spend a lot of energy with a mile to go, it becomes tough. Michael Daly making big moves here, and Drew Williams still holds the lead, but the challenges are about to come with 2 laps to go.
12:45, so another 74. They've actually rallied a little bit there with 800 to run. Daly sitting on the outside of lane 1 here, happy to get up onto the shoulder of Morgan. Williams with that compressed style still at the front of the field.
You'd think Daly would want to go pretty early here to make sure that...
he won't have the kick. He's an ultra-marathon runner.
So and that's what he's about to do, I think. So 6:50 to go. I think it's Michael Daly's turn now to really make this race his, and he's doing that. Williams is starting to respond on the inside there, and Flynn Hawkins right there. Luke Babbage still in contention as we see a lot of the field come through.
He'll want to make it a long run for home, Daly, and that's what he's tried to do, but Williams just doesn't want to let him around that shoulder. Move coming in behind now from Hopkins, who's happy to get out into lane 2 and see if he can work down the outside, throw up the challenge to Williams. Daly there, so 5 in it. You've also got Babbage, and sitting in behind them is Frensky, who's Morgan, just tied up on the inside, but 14 flat through the bell.
Flynn Hawkins now, big move here, and Williams does look tired. Daly's trying to go after Hopkins now. Moves coming from the Newcastle runners athlete Anthony Morgan. It's Morgan is trying to shift past the shoulder of Daly. Morgan now does move into second, Daly third, and Williams fourth, but it's Flynn Hopkins who's the favourite with 250 metres to go. The ACT athlete has a little look around. Look around again. He's had 2 looks in 2 seconds, and Morgan's after him. So Morgan is the big challenger. Williams, I think, is gone. So is Daly. Can Morgan rein in the Canberrian? Newcastle, Novocastrian is hunting him down. Hopkins, arms flailing, but legs strong. He kicks away from the Newcastle athlete. He's going to get this B race. Great run here by the ACT athlete, Flynn Hopkins. It's going to be a shade outside 15, a quick last lap, about 64. He will take the men's B race. Anthony Morgan finishes in second. Williams ran a good race there for third. Daly in fourth and Babbage fifth in a really entertaining top 5 battle. Hopper comes across in 15-15. Good stuff.
Great
there
race
from Flynn Hopkins.
Great B race. Really entertaining to watch. They were on the pace through 3K and then just really faded there, started dropping some 74s and 75s, and at this level, 2 or 3 seconds a lap sends you 15-minute ambition going out the door pretty quickly. 3:01, 5:59, they were bang on it through 2K, faded a little bit through 3 to 9:02, and that's when the wheels fell off, 12:09. And 15:03 though, it's a big last close. 63 last lap, that's where you get it back, and he went close, but too much to do, too late. But an entertaining tactical affair from the gents, and that'll be all she wrote for the men's B race. And we get into the business end of proceedings.
Just 21 as well, Flynn Hopkins, so plenty of distance track running in front of him. Good win at that AGMB New South Wales Championship race.
Let's have a quick look at this start list because they're getting organised over there for the women's 5,000 metre championship of New South Wales.
Yeah, good field of 20, and I'm going to try and see if I can find her. Hopefully she's lining up. Holly Campbell goes in red hot favourite to do the New South Wales distance double here. New South Wales 3,000 metre champion, trying to also add the 5k crown to her season. 20 ladies on the start line. Annabelle Miller of Katara South will go
She's there, Jimmy. Yep.
in one, and that is excellent news for viewers and us and everyone at the track. Holly Campbell lining up in 7. We'll go through the full field. Brianna Gold of Run Crew in 2. Helena Easton has had an excellent season, coming off a 16:30 at Narrabeen a couple of weeks ago. She'll be one to watch in 3 for Run Crew. Lucia Morville of Sydney University in 4. Abby Ballhausen of West in 5. Audrey Meyer Hall of Sydney University in 6. Holly Campbell will be representing Australia next week at the World Cross Country Championships senior race. She goes as favourite in 7. Jasmine Long of Athletics West making the trip over. She goes in 8. Bron Hagar's been in excellent form for Delta Rain Project. She'll be looking to go sub-17 in 9. Allegra McGibbon of UTS North goes in 10. Bronte Oates of Run Crew in 11. Hywon Wilson of Newcastle Flyers in 12. Eloise Doherty of New South Wales in 13. Jess Squo of Run Crew in 14. Regina Jensen, a brilliant Masters athlete, watch for her as well, from Newcastle Flyers in 15. Katie Pora of, I think, ACT, she goes in 16. Ella Logan, a sensational run at Sunrun last week. She'll be another contender here for a medal in 17 for Run Crew. Cecilia Brown of Newcastle Flyers 18. Layla Leg-Kartos, a very talented junior from Limitless Track Squad and Bankstown Sports in 19. And Jess Burke, who's had another great season for Run Crew thus far. The 22-year-old will go on the outside in 20. Great women's championship race. Holly Campbell, can't wait to see her go around. What's the tactics as well? How much does she want to, really go a week before her first senior world title race?
I think she'll be okay over 5k. I suspect this is the last big hit out, and you can see them now getting ready. And off they go in the women's 5,000 metre championship of New South Wales. We mentioned Campbell going to the World Cross Country Championships next week. Make sure you're there to cheer her on and all the other New South Wales and Australian athletes, including our athletes with two New South Wales in the Australian team in the mixed 4x2 kilometre relay, who are a genuine World Championship winning chance next week. Get up to Bathurst, scan the code there, and watch our Aussie athletes go around. And a very quick start in this championship race as a 35.
Ella Logan.
If you don't
well,
mind.
She's been in good form. This is maybe too good of form in the race, but she's asking questions of the ladies, and Holly Campbell has decided, well, I don't want you to dictate the race, Ella. I'm going to join right on your heels. So interesting early on. Quite often we see these championship 5Ks in particular be very tactical affairs. I remember Kate Spencer winning almost a walk. I think they did the first couple of K in. So very, very different proceedings here in 2023. It's Ella Logan and Holly Campbell already making this interesting with a 73 first lap.
To answer the question you asked earlier, Jimmy, I don't think the 5k will phase Campbell here tonight. I think she will be looking to win this race in whatever time she's able to run. I think it's a conditioning race. It's obviously the open race next week is 10k. It's on a brutal hilly course. It's going to be hot. So the
questions are going to be asked now. Ella Logan, how much of seemed to take out her legs that first 200 metres in 35 and 400 metres in 73. We saw Ali Colgan go up very quickly, and then Layla late in the B race. 3:15 they've gone through, so that is 16:15 pace. It's moving very nicely through the first K. And Layla Leg-Kartos just losing contact now with that front pack of what's become 5 now.
So 3:14 or thereabouts through the first K, and 81 for that 400 up to 1,000 metres. And Holly Campbell happy to take a sit here. Doesn't feel the need to inject any pace just yet. and just being joined at the front now, so there's a bit of a gap there. Poor old Layla Cardos is in no woman's land in the middle, and this next pack being led by Audrey Mia Hall of Sydney University.
You see Bron Hagar just on the outside there. As I mentioned, she's been dropping PBs all over the place in community 5Ks and milers meets, so watch her come through the field as well.
Regina Jensen, yeah.
I couldn't pick out the Flyers top there. It's because she's wearing red. So don't think that one's on us, Matt.
We won't report her. So 80 dead for that 400. So Regina Jensen in there, as well as just picking up
Lucy
some of the
Marville
athletes.
there of
Yeah.
Sydney Uni on the inside in the white. Helena Easton, I'm pretty sure there's a run crew just at the back of the lead pack, with Ella Logan still leading. Holly Campbell, wow, she looks fresh.
Yeah, I think sit and kick is coming to mind. We'll see how far she wants to, she wants to have a go. But you'd think Campbell running well within herself at this stage of proceedings as they come through the mile, and just staying out of trouble there as well. Happy to sit one wide rather than getting caught up back on the rail. That's Layla Cardos on screen, and sitting in behind there is Katie Pora, actually. So good to see her going around. Campbell. Seb Coe talked about this in his middle distance racing a lot, the fact that he was happy to travel a little bit wider in the lane, and just to get that free running momentum, not having your stride checked that comes with getting caught up on the rail. You may travel less distance, but you just don't run as freely, and Campbell happy to sit on the outside and do that as they come through 5:54 for another bang on 80-second lap. So they're running very evenly here now. So the reigning 3,000 metre champion heads around the shoulder and goes to the front of the field in the New South Wales 5,000 metre championship. And runs through 2K in 6:30. So of a 3:14 at the front of this field, and you can see Lucy Marvel has just tied up a bit as we watch the rest of the field come through 2K.
I think Holly Campbell's 5K PB is about to be updated 16:54 on her World Pass profile from 5.5 years ago.
I think that's a little out of date. I would have thought she must have run at 5K at some point quicker than that.
Well, the 1500s and 3Ks, that's probably been especially the 1500. But yeah, she's just going so well, isn't she? She's about to take on the hardest 10K of her life in a week, so you would imagine she's in very good 5K form, and she's showing us exactly that.
Well, she's just run a 72.
Wow.
Off the back of the 80-second laps that they started going around at. So,
Jeez, to be doing that 2K into a 5K in 27 degrees, that is confidence plus. Wow, but it's just like the form as well. Like you see her go down that back straight, your form could not be better than what Holly Campbell's is right now. It's great to watch.
It was a real breakout performance. I was down at Stromlo for the trials with a couple of hats on, and you know, for those of us that have watched Holly run for the better part of 10 years now, we set it on mileage streams and state distance championship streams for years. She was absolutely as good as her twin sister Paige as they were coming up through the ranks. As we pick up a split here at 8:18, another 72 bang. And Paige obviously went on to represent Australia over the steeplechase at Olympics and World Championships, and Holly just battled with injury through those sort of late teenage, early 20 years, despite them doing so much of their running together as juniors. And it was just such a crying shame that she never really reached her potential as she got into the Opens. But the last couple of years, under the guidance of Jeremy Roth and the Ramwick Club, they've managed to get her right, get her injury free, and she's finally reached the potential we all knew she had for so long. And next week she gets to pull on an Australian singlet, her maiden Australian Open singlet.
Tell you what, she's going to get a few photos there as well. There's clear air the photographers and her and the rest of the field.
And she gets to do it at the first ever senior World Championship to be held in Australia. So if there's a time to finally put it all together and be injury free and running well, she's timed it well. And she comes down here with 2K to run.
I think with Hull as well, like we all, like you said, Matt, we all rode that wave with her as she goes through about the 70.
Just slide up a bit there, about a 77.
No, 77. Okay, so put the injection in, and she's really blown apart the field. She's got the wind, so she can run sort of.
And this is
that
where
pace.
your question from earlier will be answered, right? How much does she really want to run it out, or how much of this now is just run around the rest of a bit of a 2K tempo here and get ready for the main game next week?
Yeah, just riding that wave with her over the last couple of seasons and seeing her sort of start out at even 435, 440, I reckon the first couple of 1500s were, then chipping away. She got down to 413 last season for the 1500, then absolutely annihilated the field later on in the state 3K. Ainsley Van Graham was in that race and really challenged her early and midway through, but just that last mile, it's sort of like Cam Myers in the last lap. They are the standout memories from this year's 3K, and ever since then, Holly Campbell has gone from strength to strength. And to see that wave, to be at the miles meets, to see her on the live stream for those following along at home, I hope you've enjoyed it as much as we have over the last couple of years. It's just a great feel-good story, and so well deserved. After you said that, years of injuries and just not quite putting it together. She's 25 years old at the moment, turning 26 this year. It's the perfect time to start getting it right and to make a national debut on the world title scene.
What's interesting, and I'm mates with Hull, not good mates, so I don't know the answer to this question, but it's still unclear to me what her specialist distance is, because she lines up next week in the Open Championship race over 10 kilometres cross country on a brutal course. She's won the 3K championship, she's about to win the 5K championship state level, but that 413 is not close to getting you on a team at 1500 metres. And if you look at, it's a wonderful problem that we've got in Australian middle distance running at the moment, but you are probably going to have to go either break 4 minutes or go very close to breaking 4 minutes to get one of the three spots in the women's 1500 any national team. So, you know, she may well come out later this season at nationals and get down to 405, 404 and suddenly be in the hunt for that. But right at the minute, she's a long way off that, and there's plenty of athletes in between her and the Jess Hulls and the Lyndon Halls and the Georgia Griffiths and the Abby Caldwell. So I just wonder, off the back of this World Championship debut at 10K, whether her and Roffey start thinking, well, you know what, maybe we are a 5K athlete or maybe we are a 3K, just whether they keep hunting for that 1500. I've no doubt she can do it if she decides that's the go, but you don't see too many athletes other than the likes of Stewie McSwain, who frankly is just a freak, be able to run 10K World Championship, you know, cross-country races and then also spin up the wheels at 1500.
Well, I think
so I'm just curious where her career goes from here.
It's interesting, right? Because you move up to 5, then you run straight into Rose Davis and Isabel Bat-Doyle, who are very good over the 10,000 as well. And I've actually wondered the question, you know, is it the 10,000? Because a lot of those ladies ran the 5,000 at the Olympic Games. We know how good Lyndon and Jess Hull, who actually has the 5,000 metre Australian record, I'm pretty sure still, we know how good they are over the 5,000, but I feel like they're going to be 1,500 metre runners, at least in Paris. So maybe it's the 5 or even the 10.
I just can't see a spot showing up in the 1,500. And I mean, it's not like...
too strong at the moment.
We've also got another generation coming through as well, just as we take a split here, of athletes who, frankly, are knocking on the door. So you've got Jess, you've got Lyndon, you've got Georgia Griffith there, but then you've got Abby Caldwell, who's in her early 20s and just knocked off Jess at Stromlo. So, you know, she'll be on that team next week. You've got the likes of Jayla Hancock-Cameron, who was very strong in that race at Stromlo. You know, there's plenty of athletes there ready to take the mantle from these absolute superstars at the front of the field. So, you know, as I said, Holly may well improve 13 seconds in the next 2 years over 1,500 and be right in that conversation. But you have to wonder whether, conversely, you look at our 5K, 10K stocks, and they're not as deep as the 1500, and to the extent we've got strong 10K athletes, they are typically more senior and getting closer to the end of their careers than the start. So there just might be more opportunities to pull on Australian singlets over the longer distances.
My thoughts have always gone to the opportunities at 5 and 10,000 as well. Is it a product of, particularly for the 10, I mean, there's ZADAPEC and not a whole lot else outside of it. Maybe it's a product of we need to actually put on a couple of these meets and see if athletes like Hole and the rest we mentioned want to show up and say, yeah, we want to run 25 laps out of ZADAPEC and we want to make a real good go at it. So maybe it's a product of actually putting on the meets and the athletes will come as well. Yeah. So we'll check back in now, 15 minutes, clocking over, 300 metres to go, 78 that last lap, but this has been just uber impressive, again, from Holly Campbell.
Yeah, so they were together through 2K. They went 3:14 and 6:30, so 3:14, 3:16 for the first couple, and then Holly really just broke them apart and put a few 72s back to back. We'll have a look further back in the field. They went through 3:9:35 and 12:49, so 3:14 in the middle of the race. Holly, despite just blowing them apart in that third kilometre, has just put the queue back in the rack, frankly, and been running 78s for the last 2K. She's going to do the distance championship double, but Jimmy, we'll have a quick look back in the field before we bring her in.
Yeah, there's Bronte Oates coming into screen, and Cecilia Brown Newcastle flies. We'll have a look at the minor medals, but that's the kind of gap we're talking about. I'm not too sure who it is at the moment. Holly Campbell is going to do the New South Wales 3K, 5K distance double in 16 flat 53. And we're just going to have a look back in the field. I think it is still Ella Logan from Run Crew who is coming second. There is a lot of lap traffic out there. Let's just have a quick look. Brown and Golub getting the bell. So is Annabelle Miller of Guitarra South. And I'm still looking back to find that silver and bronze medal at the moment. I think it is Ella Logan coming into the straight now for Run Crew.
She broke them apart, didn't she? They're just absolutely too good for them in the middle of the race. They're running 80s, 78s for the first 2K, and Holly just said, no, enough of that, dropped 2 72s and then a 77, and just absolutely broke the field in that third kilometre.
So here we go, Ella Logan. She'll pick up the silver. Brave early on. Quick start, wasn't it? 16:54. And it will be Helena Easton to make it a silver bronze for Run Crew. Easton finishes in 17:01. So well done to Ella Logan and Helena Easton, silver and bronze medalists. There is Regina Jensen. So good finish by her to come fourth, 17:12. And Bron Hager, she did come through the field late. She will finish in about 17:16 to round out the top 5 of our New South Wales 5,000 Women's Championship race. Lynn Carlos in 6th and Mobile in 7th, with Katie Pora coming across just outside 17:30 in 8th.
Too good.
9th, and sorry, I'll just call through the top 10. I think it will be Annabelle Miller. So yeah, that will round out the top 10.
Too good for them, Campbell. As expected on the start line, she does the championship double, the 3K and the 5K. Had a bigger challenge at the 3K championships, but was good enough to have that covered as well. And far, far too good for them here, the 5K champs. Big things coming for her next week. Gets to pull on an Aussie Open singlet for the first time, and for those of us that have been on the journey in a small way watching her the last 10 years, it's going to be a feel-good moment for the New South Wales athletics community to watch her get that opportunity, and I'm sure she'll make the most of it. So just the rest of this ladies' A field coming through. And we'll wrap this up and then have a look at the start list for the men's championship event. So that'll just about do us for the women's, and we'll go over the back straight and have a look at the boys getting organised, and very quickly, Jimmy, we'll just run through this start list for the men's championship, and you'll need that amended one.
Thanks very much, Matt. This will be a fun race. None of these gents are going to be representing Australia next week, so they'll be laying it all on the line here for the 5K title. Thomas DeCanto of Run Crew had a sensational 10K over the very hilly Sun Run course, almost broke Benny St. Lawrence's course record there. I think that the same year Benny ran 2:14 for the marathon. He goes in 1 and probably a slight favourite if he can. To Lockie Bryant of UTS Norths in 3, Martin Cooper of Sydney University in 4, Matt Cox of Run Crew in 5, Harrison McGill of Bankstown Sports in 6, Lockie Townsend of Sydney Uni in 7. Max Russell gets an opportunity in an open championship race. He goes for Randwick Botany in 8. Charlie Doherty, class athlete for, I think, the ACT now. He goes in 9. Hum Shap of Bankstown Sports and Wollongong Track Club in 10. Nick Dewar of Distance Culture visiting us from Queensland goes in 11. Hamish Hart, awesome to see him back in good form for Randwick Botany. He goes in 12. James Starkey of Gosford All-Stars in 13. Ethan White-Smith of Bankstown Sports in 14. Drew Fryer, the New South Wales 10,000 metre champion, he goes in 15. Liam Dixon of Newcastle Runners in 16. Hamish Longworth of Bankstown Sports in 17. Connor Whiteley has been great 1500 metre form, stepping up to the 5K tonight. He goes in 18 for Sydney Uni. Then comes Benny St. Lawrence of Run Crew. We are privileged to be still seeing him at a open distance championship race. Always good to see Ben go around. He goes in 19. Aaron Spiceberger Parker has been in great form, doing a lot of altitude training over the Christmas New Year's break. What's he got in the tank tonight for Bankstown Sports in 21? And Logan Campbell gets an opportunity as well in an open championship race for Sydney Athletics Academy in 22. Good field, Matt. Excited for this one.
Absolutely, Jimmy. And not the last great racing that we're going to see in Sydney this year. Make sure you get your tickets for the Sydney Track Classic. The world's fastest man, Fred Curley, the Olympic champion, Matt Centrowitz, returned from the USA, the reigning world high jump champion, Eleanor Patterson, Rowan Browning, Michelle Jenica, all the stars of Australian athletics will be out. Make sure you get along and cheer on all the best Aussie athletes who will line up on this track in a few weeks' time.
Just a quick update as well. Lockie Raper has taken out the Adelaide Invitational 800 metres. Huge race for him. 1:47.74. So congratulations, Lockie Raper. He's in career best form at the moment.
But off we go here in Sydney for the men's 5,000 metre championship. We had the 3K champs back at ES Marks before Christmas, and it was a cracking night out there. And we get a great opportunity here to see how the boys go over slightly further at 5K. The pace will be telling early. Parker getting up there, and he'll be one of the favourites. Here is a little bit of shuffling as they go through 232, so nothing too crazy early on. And the boys still pretty well spread out across the track, as you can see in the middle of the field there. So they head up the back. So just having a look at the front of the field now, and one of the Sydney Uni athletes, I think that's Connor Whiteley at the front of the field, then Drew Fryer sitting in behind them. Aaron Parker, who's been running really well this season for Bankstown and part of the Team Telford group. His partner Leanne Pompiani will run the Open Women's 10K race next week in Bathurst. But the boys still together as they run through 450. But Parker looking to inject some pace into proceedings here and gets to the front of the field as they come in the straight for the second time.
Yeah, some of the contenders out in front. Ethan White-Smith, I've heard he's a really good block up in Jindabyne. I think they might be on, possibly Perisher. He sits fourth in the run, Hinson fifth, and I think it's Charlie Doherty, of ACT there, sitting in sixth. Ben St. Lawrence lurking around there in seventh, but beautifully strung out. Look at that view.
71.
The entire field. Just making their way around at the moment. Drew Fryer, he's been in good form as well. He won the 10K, 10,000 metres convincingly on this track in deplorable conditions. It was smashing rain that day, and I know that because I ran. He's been in good form in third at the moment. Very strong over the 5 and 10,000 as well.
Still pretty toasty here. We're in the mid-20s and 50-odd% humidity, so it's very warm out there. Matt Cox whips them in, and the field covered by about 80 metres or so. I'll see 1,000 metres
good
done at the end of
crowd
the
out
straight.
there, actually. I just want to give a shout out to, we've got people lining the 100 metres straight all the way down, so well done everyone going out. That's awesome to see. I haven't seen this many people at SOPAC main track for a long time.
That's right. So through the K here, and they're going to be 250 bang on. So what's that, about 14.10? And
it's moving well.
About a 67 there. So Parker, that injection of pace at the front, just ahead of Whiteley, then Fryer, then Ethan Smith. Some real big Wyatt Smith, pardon me, Ethan Wyatt Smith. Some big raps on this kid out of the ACT.
Yeah, so got the maybe the Cam Myers feel about this race, just seeing him fourth at the moment. Who knows if he wins, but certainly kind of got that feel about it.
Well, he's got some senior stablemates there from the Telford squad in with him, so he'll have to get some bragging rights within the group. Hamish Longworth there leading sort of the second pack in this race, part of that Wollongong Track Club that we mentioned earlier in proceedings. But it's great to see a big group here around that 14-minute mark, sitting on the train.
It's a really good field.
A little bit further back there, so Luke Hince and Charlie Doherty. There's Benny Saint, the evergreen Benny Saint for Run Crew, new dad. And
so Hamish Longworth, seeing about 9th in the run. Hamish Hart there as well, right in the pack. And Tom DeCanto just trailing that lead pack at the moment, just biding his time. I thought Tom might be a little bit further up the field at this stage, but looking comfortable early on as well. He's a very, very class athlete. Great to see Tom back on the track.
Lovely shot there on screen of just how they've been strung out in that bus looking to get around 14 minutes and change. Absolutely no change in the order whatsoever. Parker, Whiteley, Fryer, Wyatt Smith. Gap back then to Hince and Doherty, Benny Saint. Harm Sharp there for Bankstown in behind them. Just gets under the shoulder of Benny Saint now. And then a little gap back to, I think that's James, that's one of the Ramwick athletes. I'm just trying to make
Hamish Hart there.
Hamish Hart,
yeah. And Harry McGill just splitting Hart and St. Lawrence at the moment. Doing a good job. Tommy DeCanto just edging past Longworth's shoulder, Hart's shoulder as well. As Spiceberger Parker leads them through with 8 laps to go.
Parker's doing a great job on the front here. He's just since he took up proceedings, he's run 67, 68, 68. So just really controlling things at the front of the field and dragging these guys along to what is it's about 14:10 pace still, maybe a little bit quicker even. Looking around that 14-minute mark. So we're coming up here to 2K, and this will give us our best indication yet of the sort of schedule they're on. And they're going to go through in around about 5:41 after having run a 2:50 the first lap. So
perfect passing.
Bang on again, 2:51.
Remember a couple of years ago, Kieran Taub, Matt Hudson, Dukey and out, both went sub 14. It's got shades of that this race. Just more athletes in contention, I'd say.
Interesting that, Parker, I haven't seen him looking over his shoulder or anything or flicking the elbow. He seems happy to drive the bus. Whiteley and Wyatt Smith don't look to have shown any interest whatsoever in taking up the running. So Parker happy to do the work. We'll see if he pays the price for that later. Whiteley just looks to be in a lovely position there, as does Drew Fryer. And here we go.
Here. Wyatt Smith.
So the youngster, part of the training group with Parker. Now I wonder if this is a part of the plan. Wyatt Smith, just 19 years old, or 18 or 19, turns 20 this year. He's got to be 19 then, doesn't he?
I was about to say.
It's getting late in the night here. But Wyatt Smith, big raps on the teenager, out of the ACT, part of the Telford group, and Parker sitting in behind them. So it's a Bankstown 1-2 at the front of the field. I think they're heading down to Perisher to get another block of altitude in before Nationals. Whiteley and Fry in behind them, and there's a little bit of a gap there now, starting to open up the hints. And look who's trying to cross the bridge.
And Tommy DeCanto's trying to go with him. So the Run Crew boys, there's a bit of experience between those two. Sense the move. That's smart racing there.
Yeah.
If you're a junior watching, watch that again, because that was smart.
You just don't want to get dropped off the back, do you? That slowed to a 70. So Parker had been taking them through 68s, and it just slowed to a 70. So the last couple actually have been 70s. So that early tempo has just had a little bit of a sting come out of it. Whiteley, though, has not done a single bit of work sitting there in third. He sat on the back of Parker, then let Wyatt Smith go around both him and Parker to take up the lead, and Parker now up onto the shoulder of his teammate Drew Fryer. Ditto for him. Gets a lovely little sit on the back, and we'll just have a quick look at this pack here before we get focused on the front of the field. James Starkey leading sort of this third bunch in the race, and Hamish Longworth battling away at the back of the field. But back at the front of proceedings, still a Bankstown 1-2. Of course, Bankstown picking up the men's 3K championship with the same broad squad. Cam Myers coached by Lee Bobbin, but trains a lot with these two youngsters. And a 71 there.
Harry McGill just making a little bit of a move around the shoulder of Tom DeCanto. Charlie Doherty now just on the back of that lead pack, and it's dwindled down to 7 now, I think. Yeah, 7 in contention with, is that possibly Luke Hintz? Yeah, I think it might be Luke Hintz, unfortunately, is dropping off there for Kentland Joggers. So it's a bit of a surprise, actually. Hintz has been in great form. Hopefully he can fight back, and a couple of more moves. That's Tom DeCanto, Hypno Wine being saying, this is ominous now. The Run Crew stalwarts.
Here we go. This is on. So Parker just went to the front again around Ethan Smith to take up the running, and the boys have said, nah, not quick enough for us. And the evergreen Benny St. Lawrence, new dad, former Australian 10,000 metre record holder, multiple-time Olympian, has got him and his teammate Tom DeCanto at the front of the field.
I just knew this was going to happen. You could see the writing on the wall with the reaction time to that move from Ethan Wyatt Smith shooting to the front, noticing the danger, putting themselves in the right position, 6th or 7th in the field. Think about Tom early in the race. He was sitting 12th in the run, didn't panic, and look at the position he's in now.
And I reckon Benny Saints injected about probably a 68 or 67 there, because they run 70 at the front of the field. But remember, Benny Saint was 5th or 6th in the run as they went through last time around. So the Run Crew boys, the All Blacks, have taken up 1-2 from the Bankstown 1-2 that was at the front of the field last time around, and Parker pulls off actually. So I wonder whether he was doing a post job for Wyatt Smith, although he's looks a bit tied up. It might be stitch or cramp or something, but in any event, we've lost Parker from the front of the field.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And another move comes from DeCanto and Whiteley. Fryer doesn't look like he can go with him for Randwick at the moment. Wyatt Smith still wants to be on the back of this train, and just as Benny did earlier, looks to cross the bridge. Benny, the man who instigated all of this, suddenly finds himself 6th and at the back of this leading pack. So just starting to get strung out here in a tactical battle, still a long way from home, Jimmy.
Yeah, Tom and Connor are just winding this up now. Wyatt Smith is just not... He's just losing a little bit of contact in 69. That's what's created a mini break now to Wyatt Smith, McGill, Fryer and Benny St. Lawrence. So is this the move? I call him as favourite, so I've got Tom to win this one, but Connor's been brilliant over the 1,500 metres. Again, it's sort of like that Michael Daly scenario where Tom would not want to leave this to a sprint finish with a very in-form Whiteley right on his shoulder. Wyatt Smith certainly not out of it, and that gap is not opening up, and McGill is right on his heels. Maybe Fryer just losing contact now as well with Benny Saint. So they're running in pairs at the moment. Really interesting.
Just want to acknowledge the run of McGill here, actually, as I think I've just missed the 4K split, but they were through about 11:35, 11:38, something like that. And McGill you know, it was a bit like Benny saying, well back in the field early on, but now finds himself fourth, battling with teammate Wyatt Smith for the bronze medal. So they run through in about 12:05, and they've just managed to inject that pace as you're talking about, Jimmy. They've gone 70, 69, 70. So it's all going pretty strong.
Two powerhouses, aren't they, of New South Wales distance running, Run Crew and Sydney Uni. There's not just an individual title here. I reckon there's a bit of bragging rights between these two. The two generations split as well, with Tommy DeCanto, 36 now, Connor Whiteley, serving in his early 20s, 22 years old, 23 years old. So
a couple of boys third and fourth that want to be in that chat too, by the way.
Oh, absolutely. Well, it's sorry, I'm calling it a two-horse race. It's not exactly that. Wyatt Smith and McGill are doing a fantastic job. Benny's actually finding a bit of a second wind here and just starting to try and drop Drew Fryer, and Fryer's just losing contact with Benny St. Lawrence. So St. Lawrence, we've seen him pick up medals from nowhere before as well. But I reckon it might be close to a race of two now.
Yeah, it is now, isn't it?
Whiteley, this is going to be the bell lap. It's going to be a hell of a finish.
Whiteley goes early, so gets around the shoulder. They were 12:05 through last time, and they've already started to dial it up. 3:12 through 400 to go, so a 67. Let's see what they're able to close in. Whiteley goes to the front of the field, around the shoulder of DeCanto. I wonder if the young legs have just got a bit more zip in them over the last 400. Great battle going on for third. Harry McGill has got into the clear bronze medal position ahead of Wyatt Smith and Benny Saint. Look at the 19-year-old running against the 40-odd-year-old, and it's the old veteran, the 10K record holder once upon a time, who's gone past the youngster. I tell you what, don't write Benny Saint off for a medal here as he looks to try to get into third position. But at the front of the field, it's Whiteley and DeCanto. As this shot widens up, just look for the battle for third as well, because it's absolutely on here. But Whiteley at the front of the field, 14 on the clock as they come into the straight. DeCanto in second, and Sydney University are going to get the state 5,000 metre championship. Look behind though, because there's a great battle going on for the minors. Whiteley wins at 14:15, DeCanto second, and McGill is just going to hang on for Bankstown and hold off Benny Saint, the great Benny Saint. Ethan Wyatt Smith, big things coming from this youngster who puts a 14:27 on the board at 19. Starkey gets the bell, and Drew Fryer was prominent in that leading group of six as the rest of this field starts to come over the line. But Jimmy, another entertaining race.
That was fun. That absolutely lived up to the expectation, and kudos to Connor Whiteley. That's a big victory. There are some huge names in that field, and Whiteley, who I think he might actually be moving to Canberra soon, is really trying to take his young career to the next level. So that's a big breakthrough victory for him, particularly for a 1500 specialist to go up to the 5. And DeCanto, I know he's still early in his comeback, but he was flying last weekend, and I thought he might just get the better of the youngster, but big win there for the all white. DeCanto has to be said really good for silver. That's a really solid run by Tommy. And it was a Harrison McGill who just held on for bronze, wasn't it? Just in front of Ben St. Lawrence. And if you need an example of coaching, coach going out there at 41 years old and putting on a kick like that, didn't quite see all of it on the stream, but for those at the venue, they're not going to forget that anytime soon.
James Starkey's going to round out the field for the men's 5K championship in what has been an entertaining night of racing here. The story of the two 5Ks, of course, Holly Campbell and Holly Campbell just absolutely broke them apart in the women's race. They dropped a few 72s in the middle of the race and just absolutely got the better of them, and just nothing they could do about it. And then Connor Whiteley, just too good for them there in the men's race. But also some exciting races in the 800 as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It was Josh Atkinson in the men's 8, 149, breaking that 150 mark, and backs up his 148 in Canberra a couple of weeks ago. Excellent running there by the Thailand International and UTS North's domestic athlete, really good there. And of course Georgia Wassall backing up at 206 from last week's New South Wales Miles at Bankstown with a 207 05 performance, a really good victory from her as well. Davina Smith made an interesting race too. It's been a good night of racing, Matt. Also shout out to that men's 400 with Ian Halpin and Luke Van Rattingen going hammer and tongs with one another in lanes 4 and 5. That was entertaining as well.
Some fantastic racing tonight here. Make sure you're paying attention to athletics in Australia at the moment. The Adelaide Invitational is still on, so change over to the Athletics Australia live stream of that Summer National Grid meet. But if you're in New South Wales, or even if you're not, make sure you are in Bathurst next week for the first ever senior home World Championship. The World Cross Country titles are on in Australia, and we've got an Australian team that's ready to take on the world, in particular a 4x2 kilometre mixed relay team who are a genuine World Championship contender in that event. And once that's done, the Murray Plant Memorial Meet in Melbourne will be an absolute cracker, and then make sure you're back here at SOPAC for the Sydney Track Classic on the 11th of March, I think it is, Jimmy. That's Saturday
Correct.
night.
4 weeks today.
And watch some of the great internationals coming over for that, including the world's fastest man, Fred Curley, and the Olympic 1500 metre champion in Matt Centrowitz. That's all for us here from SOPAC, from Jimmy and I. Thank you very much for joining us for the 5K Championships, and we'll see you next week for the World Cross Country Championships in Bathurst.
I reckon people will get around it. Like, it's an exciting thing to watch cross country.
I'm obviously checking out the course yesterday and today. I think it's going to be a cross country course like no other, so we're excited to be here and can't wait.
I mean, it's tough, but I think it will sort some people out.
You get to see like the terrain changing every sort of 150 metres.
Oh, it's super exciting. I mean, we can have the whole of Australia behind us here and hopefully have as many spectators from home.
We've got really good runners. We've got the best runners in the world being here, so yeah, definitely come watch.
It's good to go one up from last year. Last year I got second here, so yeah, I'm happy I came out away with the win. It gives you, points for the 5,000, lets you run at the Oceanas, I think, so yeah, it's quite important for the World Champs in Congo.
Definitely a special moment for me, coming off injury and just jumping into opens this year. It's good to start off strong and it's a good base for me to work upwards from.
I'm pretty happy with that with the season. I think that's my best ever. So to have that under load is pretty exciting. My goal as an athlete is always to win. I'm not giddy at form. I'm not going to get third. Like, my goal is to win. Is it realistic to win this year? I think so.
Good confidence booster to get the win against those girls. They're also talented and everyone's in really good shape at the moment.